Chapter 989 Reincarnator. Chapter 989 Reincarnator. By choosing to be a reincarnator, one embarks on a perilous path where only the victors triumph and the defeated rot into oblivion, a terribly treacherous path from which there is no returning from. Once selected by the Samsara Temple, the candidates will have to take part in a series of tests, after which the ones qualified will become Rank 1 reincarnators. They will then be entered into contests of life and death where only the fittest and strongest survive. And once in a certain period of time, the Samsara Temple will continually vet the competence of the reincarnators with another series of grueling trials, which participation is mandatory. A Rank 1 reincarnator, for instance, would be expected to have his or her competence re-examined once every decade. He or she will be promoted into Rank 2 if he or she passes the test. In the case of failure during the test, but he or she manages to survive, the reincarnator will be expected to undergo another test after another decade. Nevertheless, a reincarnator will be mercilessly executed if he or she fails to qualify in 3 consecutive tries. There will be no quarter spared. Emperor Shao said, "An execution if one fails to qualify in 3 consecutive tries." Jian Wushuang grimaced at the terrible tale of the Samsara Temple. It would have been very much pleasant if the reincarnators were allowed to choose on whether they agree to a test. Yet, these tests are imperative to the reincarnators every decade without being accorded the privilege of choice. By crook or by hook, a Rank 1 reincarnator will have to qualify to become Rank 2 in 3 attempts lest he or she will be ruthlessly executed. Such is the cruel and torturous path of becoming a reincarnator. The tests may be easy and manageable for most reincarnators to rise up to Rank 2 or even 3. Yet, the challenges of qualification increase many times over as one climbs up to higher ranks. The very same conundrum remains. All reincarnators have to pass within the stipulated time frame, lest they have to pay with their own lives. It is only after reaching Rank 6 that a reincarnator is finally free of the being required to sit for examinations. Emperor Shao said, "So everyone has to reach Rank 6 within the specified time frame beside traversing the excruciating challenges of the tests. What a brutal way of life indeed." Jian Wushuang thought quietly. It is more than that. In most cases, no even one candidate from among 10,000 reincarnators would be able to achieve Rank 6 in time. Emperor Shao said gravely, "Almost none of the natives of the continent dare attempt the undertaking of becoming a reincarnator henceforth, due to its bloody and violent history, save for a few who hailed from the ancient world, a few ignorant and uninformed souls who knew nothing of the dangerous fates that await them. The few souls indeed, like your father himself, who had also begun treading on this very same path as a reincarnator." Jian Wushuang was shocked at this sudden revelation of his father. He had begun to pick up the gist when Emperor Shao began his tale of the grim fate of becoming a reincarnator. Years before, Di Jing was aghast by Jian Nanshan's decision to attempt such a risky endeavor. He had then revealed to Jian Wushuang about his father's decision to set off on a journey so deadly and treacherous. With Emperor Zhao's detailed elaboration, Jian Wushuang was now fully certain. Indeed, his father had chosen a most horrible path that only a handful in the entire green fire world would dare walk. The life of a reincarnator of the Samsara Temple was indeed a phylogenetic struggle where only the strongest survived. Most of the great warriors of the green fire world have heard of the tales of the reincarnators of the Samsara Temple. I am sure that your father knew the risks that he undertook, Jian Wushuang. The Samsara Temple must have been forthcoming about these conditions when they offered a place to your father, and he had willingly obliged. Emperor Shao muttered under a light breath. Jian Wushuang could not help but grow tense and anxious as the words his father said to him before he left returned to him once more. No matter how dangerous this path may be, no matter how this road may even by my last, no doubt or fear may dissuade me from seeing her, even if it's only for one moment. Father chose this road, although he knew that it was full of dangers, which could even lead to his death. Jian Wushuang clasped his hands tightly as his eyes glinted, mirroring the brimming emotions trying to pour out. There was but only one reason behind his father's decision for such an undertaking. It was all for Mother, is it not, Father? Jian Wushuang murmured quietly. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, the strong and violent undulations of his heart simmering down. He looked at Emperor Shao once again and said, "Do you have any way that I can locate my father, Uncle Shao?" Even amongst the members of the Samsara Temple, information about the reincarnators is closely guarded with intense fervor and zeal. There is but only one way. You will have to travel to the Samsara continent yourself. Seek out a golden-clothed deacon or other members of higher position within the Samsara Temple. With the help of one such individual, you should be able to locate your father's whereabouts. Emperor Shao explained. A golden-clothed deacon? Jian Wushuang repeated, his face flushed with hope. Gold-clothed deacons of the Samsara Temple are commonly rank 7 reincarnators, ones who are equal to one of the strongest rank 2 Tao masters or a rank 3 master. Even upon the vast sward of the Samsara continent, such powers are hard to come by. With superior authority and power, they are generally informed about the information of reincarnators below rank 7. Emperor Shao said, "Below rank 7? What about the information of reincarnators above rank 7? Jian Wushuang frowned. It is least likely that your father is above rank 7. He has only been a reincarnator for less than 2 millennia, being rank 6 at best, if he had passed all tests with hardly any mishaps. Most rank 6 reincarnators wield the destructive powers of a Tao master, being a potent force in their own right." Emperor Shao shook his head. By his calculations, Jian Nantian would, at most, have achieved rank 6 in the span of 2 millennia, which in itself was already a remarkable feat. It was simply implausible that he had reached rank 7. Not everyone could hope to possess the extraordinary talents of Jian Wushuang, after all. Despite possessing ample talents of his own, Emperor Shao felt that Jian Nantian was still far behind in potential than his own son, Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang nodded as he swallowed Emperor Zhao's word with reluctance, keeping reservations on his own. "It seems like you do indeed intend on going to the Samsara continent yourself, Jian Wushuang?" Emperor Shao looked inquisitively at him. "Yes," Jian Wushuang replied heavily. For 2 millennia, Jian Wushuang had been separated from his father, without any news from him as to whether he still lives. It was a pity that his father had not been present to witness his marriage with Lung Rushuang. But now that he has an inkling as to where he might be, Jian Wushuang was resolved to seek out his father. "How can I go to the Samsara continent, Uncle Shao?" Jian Wushuang asked. "I know not myself the way there, but you can ask your senior brother for help. There is a spatial wormhole inside the Void Temple that leads to the Samsara continent." Emperor Shao said, "I see." Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. "When will you be leaving, Jian Wushuang?" Emperor Shao then asked. "Right away," Jian Wushuang answered, his hand balled into a fist as a show of his resolution. Chapter 990, The Bloody Moon. Chapter 990, The Bloody Moon. Peace and order returned to the Tang Empire with the return of the Tang Emperor. Having discovered the possible whereabouts of his father, Jian Wushuang was ready to leave immediately to seek him out. He was only beginning to embark on his journey when the Tao Master Spirit came to him. Many a great year ago, the Tao Master Spirit had once been shown kindness by the then-living Emperor Qin. In memory and gratitude of the grace she had received, she had come to help in the defense of the empire when Emperor Xiao had requested for her aid. I am here to inform you that I have accomplished the deed as you bade me, Jian Wushuang. The Tao Master Spirit handed to Jian Wushuang a scroll. Is the seal undone? Jian Wushuang asked with joy and anticipation. Jian Wushuang had chanced upon the scroll when he had slain Xia Yan, the second young master of the Xia clan, at Circus Island. Once belonging to Xia Yan, it was one of the most precious treasures that he had pillaged from his dead adversary. The scroll was supposed to contain a powerful and destructive sword essence, making it a most valuable treasure to have in one's possession. But when Jian Wushuang had first laid his hands upon the scroll, he had discovered that the scroll was being guarded by a powerful magical seal. For many years, he was not able to undo the magic that guarded the scroll as he held back his fervent eagerness at his helplessness of not being able to defeat the seal. Returning to the imperial city and meeting with the Tao Master Spirit had renewed him with hope she might be able to break the seal. As the greatest conjurer of magical formations across the vast terrains of the Green Fire world, the Tao Master Spirit was able to defeat the magic that guarded the scroll in only a few days. The magical seal that held the scroll was powerful indeed. I have exhausted a great deal to destroy the seal, but this scroll is indeed a rare treasure, one that I believe will surely be helpful in your endeavor now. The Tao Master Spirit said, "Thank you so much, Senior." Jian Wushuang was very grateful. "My pleasure. Moreover, I am curious to see what heights you will one day achieve in the future." The Tao Master Spirit beamed at him with a smile. "Well, now that the siege of the imperial city has been lifted and empire is delivered from ruin and despair, I will now take my leave. Farewell, Jian Wushuang." With that, the Tao Master Spirit turned and left, swinging the sleeves of her robes as she spun. Jian Wushuang immediately peered through the contents of the scroll. He had reached the most important parts of what he was reading when his eyes widened with amazement. "Oh, there are actually 19 complete sword principles in this scroll." Jian Wushuang exclaimed with delight. It was a truly powerful swordsman who had, with great strength and effort, inscribed the complete teachings of all 19 sword principles into this scroll. Moreover, that was hardly all. The scroll had also contained illustrations and sketches depicting the application of the swordsmanships in combat. It was as if the all 19 sword principles were thoroughly displayed in their fullness before Jian Wushuang. This is great indeed." Jian Wushuang burst with joy and disbelief. "Being at the pinnacle of the eternal realm, my next course of action for advancement will be to forge a sword principle of my own to achieve the rank of Tao Master. Long before, I have assimilated the acumen of forging the strongest sword principle that Tao Yuanzi had left behind. And now, I have the scroll containing 19 complete disciplines of sword principles with details, illustrations of their use in combat. There are 10 ordinary-leveled principles, 6 universe-leveled principles, and 3 creation-leveled principles in all. Despite not being the most powerful and strongest of sword principles, they are all invaluable to me nonetheless. I have always been gifted with using the sword, with the assimilated acumen of forging the strongest sword principle, and these 19 sword principles, it will not be long for me to create my own sword principle. I might even be able to forge the strongest sword principle of my own." Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled with confidence. On the very same day, Jian Wushuang went to meet with his senior brother, Shui Lingtian, standing before the huge mouth of a spatial wormhole. "Are you truly adamant on going to the Samsara continent, junior brother?" Shui Lingtian asked with chagrin. distressed for the safety of his fellow disciple. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. Very well. The wormhole is open to you now. Then again, I do not know where will this wormhole lead you upon the Samsara continent. The Samsara continent is, after all, under the dominion of the Samsara temple. The Void Temple holds no sway there. Be extremely careful there. Xue Lingtian warned. Understood, Jian Wushuang replied with a cheerful chuckle as he stepped into the wormhole before him. With the flash of a light, Jian Wushuang's figure dissolved out of sight. In a land shrouded by darkness and gloom, it was in the deep of night, where the moon shone richly in blood-crimson red over fields of the antiquated earth. The fetid air reeked strongly of blood and malice. This was the Samsara continent, a land where only the law of jungle reigned supreme. The way of life that was more brutal and cruel that the Void Continent could never hope to compete. The space in the air over a barren field ruptured suddenly, revealing a crack that issued the figure of a person who shot out swiftly into open. Wearing a crimson robe made of the blood-killing plate armor and the blood mountain sword carried over his back, Jian Wushuang had finally stepped upon the Samsara continent. Am I now in the Samsara continent? Jian Wushuang cast his sights around him curiously. He found himself standing in the middle of a wide meadow. There was nothing but emptiness all around him, save for the silhouette of mountains many leagues away in the gloom of night. The moon. It is blood red. Jian Wushuang looked up at the sky, and a smile lined over his lips. Different continents have varying environmental properties. It appeared that the heavenly bodies seen from the Samsara continent were different to that of the Void Continent. Yet the primal rule of the survival of the fittest applied everywhere. Just reaching this continent, I am barely familiar with anything around here. I need to first find a place to settle down before I begin to search for the golden-clothed deacon of the Samsara temple. Jian Wushuang decided. All of a sudden, Jian Wushuang felt the air quivered. A jet of energy blast had shot through the air nearby. It had originated from a site far away from where Jian Wushuang stood. It was due to his powerful senses that he could feel it. Is there a battle taking place there? With a curious twitch of his brows, Jian Wushuang sped swiftly towards the point of origin of the energy blast. He reached before a battlefield, finding the dangerous flickers of steel and fire shimmering relentlessly in the midst of night as men fought and cried in a fierce and brutal battle. There were hundreds of thousands of people fighting against one another. Kill them all. On this day, the Heavenly Ape clan will be utterly destroyed. Kill every one of them. Spare no quarter. Ha 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 ha. Kill them all. Kill them all. Screams and cries of killing resounded across the gloomy vista, hemmed by the din of clashing steels and the sporadic shrieks and howls of pain and agony. The people crying and screaming in anguish were mostly children and women. Witnessing the carnage and bloodthirstiness of the slaughter, Jian Wushuang could not help but grimace with an inexplicable pain. This was not a battle. This was a massacre. Chapter 991, The Bystander. Chapter 991, The Bystander. This is madness. Jian Wushuang's brow grimaced with an inexplicable pain that seemed to stem from his heart as he witnessed with own eyes the massacre taking place before him. Uncle Xiao had mentioned of the brutality and carnage between different tribes and races as they slaughter one another. To think that I am witnessing the very same myself. The gap between the two different races was so apparent that the losing side could barely defend themselves from the merciless butchery of the aggressing faction. There was hardly any ounce of mercy, for even the children and women were also butchered like the dying warriors fighting to defend them. a race of 10,000 decimated to the brink of utter annihilation, so terrible that there might not even be more than a handful left of the remnants who managed to survive. Jian Wushuang muttered as he heaved a heavy sigh. Just then, Jian Wushuang turned with astonishment as he saw a figure speeding at him suddenly. It was a middle-aged man whose skin was of a copper-bronze complexion. Bristles of unkempt hairs were visible upon the man's chin as he cradled a child not more than 10 years of age tightly in his arms. "Father!" The child whimpered as he looked upon his father, his cheeks red with anxiety. "Mother, uncle, and third uncle. His whole body shaking with intense grief, the middle-aged man spoke through gritted teeth. "They are all dead. They have all perished. Our entire tribe is no more." Hearing the words that confirmed his dread, the child fell into silence, his little hand balled into a tightly clenched fist with rage as he suppressed his urge to break into tears. "After them, leave none alive." A deep roar came from behind. The middle-aged man turned pale as he heard the loud cries behind him. Turning to his back, he saw 4 figures chasing after him. The 4 pursuers who came radiated powerful ori of their own, all of which was on a par with the levels of the eternal realm. "Curse our fortunes! We have been noticed." The middle-aged man swore under his breath and increased his speed. But he had barely run far when he noticed the figure of a young male in crimson robes who had a sword carried over his back. It did not take long for the 4 pursuers to also notice Jian Wushuang's presence. "Ha ha ha! It seems that we have overlooked one here. Finish him off, brothers!" The man with purple hair exclaimed heartily with a laugh. Jian Wushuang's face darkened with displeasure as he heard the cries of the men about him. Replying with a growl, Jian Wushuang spoke, "I am but an innocent bystander." "A bystander? Ha ha ha! Do you expect me to take you for your words?" The purple-haired man sneered coldly. "None of the Heavenly Ape clan will be allowed to live past this day. We will eliminate anyone around here to prevent any possibilities of any survivors." A strong bloodthirstiness rose in the air as the 4 men readied themselves to satiate their craving for blood. Even though they were hardly the strongest tribe in the Samsara continent, they were nonetheless the strongest in the nearby regions. Hence, they had tormented the weaker tribes nearby with their malice and cruelty. The annihilation of the Heavenly Ape clan on this day was but a mere instance of the mediocrity of terror and destruction these people have inflicted upon other. Sensing that Jian Wushuang was of the eternal realm, the purple-haired man regarded him as nothing but a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. "You are willing to kill anyone just to prevent from sparing any survivors," Jian Wushuang murmured as his eyes glinted with cold fury when the 4 men charged towards him. Just when the 4 men were but tens of meters away from him. "Get lost!" Jian Wushuang barked a thunderous roar that was imbued with the ancient god power. "Pooh! Pooh! Pooh! Pooh!" The 4 men felt their bodies shuddered, followed by agonizing pain that forced them to spat out mouthfuls of blood as they recoiled from the blasts of force that hammered them. "What was that?" The purple-haired man looked at Jian Wushuang, incredulous once he regained his steadiness. Despite his level of the eternal realm, the young man possesses unusual strengths, or at least he has remarkable aptitude in using methods of sonic attacks. The purple-haired man's brows furrowed with doubt. With only one loud cry, the young man was able to inflict upon them serious injuries. This was hardly a strength that the 4 of them could easily defeat. The purple-haired man immediately relayed a message using telepathy. "We have encountered a strong enemy with powers possibly at the pinnacle of the eternal realm." He could be the strongest warrior that the Heavenly Ape clan had been hiding all along. Shortly after the message was relayed, the four stood quietly and observed Jian Wushuang, showing no signs of attacking once more. The middle-aged man who was escaping with his child stopped in his tracks not far away. He shouted to Jian Wushuang, "Run for your life, young man! The rest of the powerful warriors of the Bone Devil clan will be arriving soon." The Bone Devil clan? Jian Wushuang heard the warning and felt surprised with the name. He looked up suddenly, murmuring softly, "It is too late, they are here." He had barely finished his sentence when the figure of a large man with a wide girth, clothed in red, landed before Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was standing at a little less than 1,000 miles away from the site of the massacre, but it had merely taken the man, an elderly person clothed in crimson red, to arrive in the blink of an eye after he had received the message of the purple-haired man. This is terrible. Of all evil monsters, it had to be him who had come. The middle-aged man screamed with horror, breaking into a run as he tried to carry his child and escape. There are still powerful warriors of the Heavenly Ape clan that still draws breath. The elder in red asked as he surveyed his surrounding with a hateful glare, the strange runic mark on the left of his forehead visibly standing out to all that had seen him. It was him, Elder Scorpion. The purple-haired man pointed at Jian Wushuang and spoke to the elder. It was he who had injured us grievously when we encountered him during our chase for the remnants of the Heavenly Ape clan. He had released a sound wave attack with a loud cry that struck us hard. Oh, a sound wave attack. The eyes of the red-robed elder narrowed slightly with suspicion. None of the warriors of the Heavenly Ape clan were adept in the methods of sound wave attacks. Who are you? As I have mentioned to your kinsman earlier, I am but a mere innocent bystander. It was the four of your kinsmen who have mistaken me as an enemy and tried to attack me. I have no choice but to defend myself in addition to allowing them a taste of their own medicine. Jian Wushuang replied indifferently. A bystander, you say? The red-robed elder's brows rose with apparent doubt. With an arrogant snort, he spoke, "Us of the Bone Devil clan have proclaimed our intentions to annihilate the Heavenly Ape clan 10 days ago. As such, the various warriors and practitioners of the other clans and tribes nearby have all withdrawn from this vicinity. This begs the question, why are you here if you are not one of the Heavenly Ape clan, as you so claim?" Clearly you were lying. Jian Wushuang was astonished. He has just arrived at the Samsara continent from the Void continent. It was by a stroke of woeful fortune that he emerged here. His appearance here was purely coincidental, as he had hardly any ties with the Heavenly Ape clan. Humph. Moreover, only one of the Bone Devil clan may enact judgment upon one of our own. Who are you, a mere warrior of the eternal realm, to dispense punishment to us? The red-robed elder growled furiously. And for that reason, no matter who you are, you shall pay the price of insolence. The red-robed elder hurled himself at Jian Wushuang as he spoke, his aura rapidly rising with an overwhelming and terrible intensity. Chapter 992, An Eye for an Eye. Chapter 992, An Eye for an Eye. To pay. Jian Wushuang felt his face flushed with anger as rage was brewing in his heart. With no ties with the Heavenly Ape clan, he had not any intentions of intervening in the massacre. But everything is different, now that the Bone Devil clan had dared incur his wrath. To your death, young man! With his face glowering and his eyes flaring with malice, the red-robed elder lunged at Jian Wushuang, appearing before him in the blink of an eye as his palms, adorned with similar runic markings on his skin, threatened to smash into his face. The force of his stroke tore the fabric of space asunder. With this very stroke, The red-robed elder had fully unleashed his powers as a rank 1 Tao master in its fullness. Do you still intend to kill me? Harnessing his rage and aggression, Jian Wushuang channeled the ancient god powers he wielded and concentrated them upon his palms. Grasped tightly into a fist, Jian Wushuang swung his arm forward, releasing the destructive forces that he had mustered. It was a stroke that could even invoke a terrifying storm. Bam! Jian Wushuang's fists crashed into the elder's palms. A huge, deafening boom ensued, followed by the sickening crunch of shattering bones. What? The elder's eyes widened with panic, stricken with fear and panic. He could hardly believe the sight of his entire arm erupting into an explosion of blood and flesh as shreds of his sinews and viscera scattered around. The blow from Jian Wushuang's fists was hardly weakened, transmitting straight into the torso of the elder. Humph! With a painful grunt, the red-robed elder's face paled instantly, and he was suddenly thrown back as he staggered to maintain his balance. But he had barely steadied himself when a ghost-like apparition appeared beside him. With a giant fist glowing in a deep shade of gold, the figure reached for the neck of the temporarily incapacitated elder. The elder in red, a powerful Tao master of his tribe, was held in a vice-like grip by a giant hand, like a filthy piece of rag. You were demanding that I pay the price of laying my hands on your kin, old man, were you not? A deathly stare shone with extreme coldness from Jian Wushuang's eyes as his bloodthirsty craving for the elder's blood emanated strongly, blocking out completely what was left of the older man's aura. Frozen with fear, the elder could hardly move a finger as his eyes were filled with shock and terror. Never did he expect that a young warrior of the eternal realm could pummel him into such a humiliating defeat. Help! Help! In the midst of his terror-struck hysteria, the red-robed elder immediately relayed a distress message, calling for help from the rest of his clan. Stop! A sudden roar reverberated from the air, and 3 figures sped from the site of the massacre far away with blinding speeds and stopped near Jian Wushuang. The newcomers were 2 men and a woman, 3 of whom radiated whose aura as strong as the crippled elder, who was now held in Jian Wushuang's grip. These were clearly powerful Tao masters of their clan. Please release the elder scorpion of our clan, young sir. The only woman of the 3, who was dressed in a blue robe, first spoke. She had the strongest aura of the 3, a Tao master who was very close to reaching the level of rank 2. Amusing indeed. And why should I listen to you? Jian Wushuang snorted as his grip on the elder's neck tightened. Helplessly incapacitated, the face of the older man was slowly turning purple. You dare defy us of the Bone Devil clan? The woman in blue shouted anxiously. The Bone Devil clan? The edges of Jian Wushuang's curled into a vicious smirk. Never have I meddled in your affairs. But it was your kinsman who had offended me and tried to attack by viewing me as one of the Heavenly Ape clan. Therefore, I have decided to intercede on their behalf. We shall see what will you do with that. Jian Wushuang was, after all, a firebrand with a short fuse. Even when he was but a young fledgling, he had the courage to challenge the strongest of the overlords of the Nanyang continent. With his current prowess as one of the strongest warriors of the Green Fire world, he would now have hardly any reservations in using his fists to subjugate anyone who dared offend him. As a firm believer of the adage, an eye for an eye, he was not one to forgive and forget, since it was the Bone Devil clan who had dared rouse his anger. There would be no room for any leniency. Please, Elder Apricot, save me. The immobilized Elder Scorpion, who was held by Jian Wushuang, managing only the few words as best he could. Quiet! The woman in blue snapped at him, swiftly turning into a more amicable and gentle demeanor as she tried to reason with Jian Wushuang. I confess that it was our folly to have angered you, young sir. Please accept our humblest apologies. I beseech upon your kindness for the release of our elder scorpion. Oh! Jian Wushuang cocked an eyebrow and snorted indignantly as he loosened his grip. The frail figure of Elder Scorpion immediately slipped out of Jian Wushuang's hand. With what was left of his strength, he scurried miserably to the side of the woman in blue, with fear and terror still lingering upon his face. My deepest thanks, the woman said as she let out a sigh of relief. Never before had the Bone Devil clan been forced to surrender their dignity in such an ignominious manner. Then again, the blue-robed woman had learned that Jian Wushuang had defeated and crippled Elder Scorpion with merely one stroke. The strength of Jian Wushuang was evident with his effortless defeat of Elder Scorpion, who was a rank 1 Dao Master himself. He's at least a rank 2 Dao Master, or even a rank 2 warrior, who has reached the pinnacle with great brute strength. The woman in blue thought quietly to herself. The strength and power that a rank 2 Dao Master wielded was sufficient to strike fear into the Bone Devil clan. More so with the powerful display of Jian Wushuang's strength, which had disheartened the woman from uttering any objections, effectively smothering whatever ounce of defiance left in her. Word of the purge of the Heavenly Ape clan was delivered to all other tribes and clans in the vicinity 10 days ago, young sir. Therefore we had not expected any strangers or bystanders to be nearby. With our humblest regrets for offending you, we hope that you will leave us be with our business and withdraw from this area. The woman said all the cordiality she could muster. Very well, but I will take that too with me. Jian Wushuang spoke as his finger traced into the distance ahead of them. It was the middle-aged man who had been running away from the site of the battle with his child in his arms. He had tried his best to put as much distance as possible, yet it was still hardly impossible for a Dao Master to catch up to him and slaughter them both. In the midst of his panicked flight from the site of the battle, the middle-aged man had noticed what was happening behind him, but knowing that he could ill afford any glance to his back, he chose to run as fast as he could. Very well. The woman in blue nodded, her teeth gritted with unwillingness. Releasing a pair of survivors of the Heavenly Ape clan was hardly too expensive a price for the Bone Devil clan. That'll do. Jian Wushuang began to turn around and shot a fleeting glare at the woman in blue. You would best discipline your kinsmen and practice some humility and respect. Thank the stars for your fortune this time. With that, Jian Wushuang turned and left. Chapter 993, Tribal Heterogeneity. Chapter 993, Tribal Heterogeneity. Jian Wushuang turned and left confidently, leaving the irate warriors of the Bone Devil clan behind him, whose lips twitched with annoyance and anger. Trying his best to silence his rage, Elder Scorpion's face turned pale at the hearing of Jian Wushuang's words. Within himself, he roared, who would have known that a rank 2 Dao Master like you would conceal his aura? I would never have dared to infuriate you if only you had shown your aura in the beginning. Nevertheless, Elder Scorpion's was true. None of them, including the purple-haired man, would dare brazenly attack him if Jian Wushuang had earlier revealed his powers as a Dao Master. They would first inquire his purpose of being there before deciding if aggression was called for. Appearing suddenly in the vicinity with only the strength of a warrior of the Eternal Realm, the warriors of the Bone Devil clan had foolishly mistaken him as one of the Heavenly Ape clan. Never would they expect that a mere warrior of the Eternal Realm was, in truth, a powerful master of the skill of combat in disguise. Leaving the site of the decimation of the Heavenly Ape clan, Jian Wushuang sped on for some time until he reached the top of a mountain ridge. The middle-aged man stopped before Jian Wushuang with his child in his arms. He put the boy down and bowed to Jin Wushuang respectfully. I am Yuan Gang of the Heavenly Ape Clan. Thank you so much for saving our lives. Howard quickly bowed to the young master and thanked him for his kindness. The man urged his son. Thank you so much, sir. The kid fell to his knees and bowed deeply to Jin Wushuang. Up you come. Jin Wushuang waved his hand. Yuan Gang and his son felt a strange force pouring like a strong wind that lifted them to their feet. Without your help, Howard and I could never hope to have escaped. We will remember your kindness and repay you someday. Yuan Gang continued. Jin Wushuang only shrugged indifferently, showing no heed at all. Alas! Even though we've escaped, the Heavenly Ape Clan is finished. Yuan Gang's eyes turned wet red, and his son clenched his fists with anger. Jin Wushuang's placid face showed no emotion. It was only by a stroke of coincidence that he had just arrived in the Samsara continent and had saved Yuan Gang and his son. It was a truth that both Yuan Gang and his son were aware of. The Heavenly Ape Clan, Jin Wushuang murmured absent-mindedly. Unless I am mistaken, the Heavenly Ape Clan would likely be the descendants of a human, and the Heavenly Ape, an exotic beast of the eternal chaotic world. The two before you bear the blood of the Heavenly Ape, but the strength of their bloodline is all but spent, so weak that they can hardly use their bloodline power against foes in battle. The Gu King's voice rang in Jin Wushuang's head. Is that so? Jin Wushuang thought to himself, not saying a word. Despite bearing the bloodline of the ancient gods, Jin Wushuang himself could hardly use the bloodline powers of the bodily fluids that flowed through his veins, for he lacked the ritualistic baptism conducted upon him by the ancient god clan. The rituals are the prerequisite condition for him tap into the powers bestowed by his blood to become a true ancient god and enjoy great enhancements in his strength. The Heavenly Ape Clan bore a similarly unique bloodline of their own, yet they have not been able to call upon the powers of their own bloodline. I have a few questions that require honest answers, Yuan Gang, said Jin Wushuang. You have shown us kindness and grace in dire times of need, sir. I'll answer to the best of my knowledge. Yuan Gang quickly replied. Very well. It is just a few simple questions. Jin Wushuang said as he began. Jin Wushuang inquired about some common knowledge about life in the Samsara continent, knowledge that any native to the land could easily provide. Before long, Jin Wushuang had all the answers he required. There are so many tribes and clans in the Samsara continent. Jin Wushuang thought quietly, even though he was shocked. Based on Yuan Gang's accounts, there were too many tribes and clans in the Samsara continent. So many that conflict and strife constantly plagued the tribal heterogeneity in pursuit of wealth and resources. As time passes, there began a form of hierarchical caste system amongst the multitudes of tribes and clans. There were different tiers of castes that divided the tribes and clans of the Samsara continent. The lesser tribes, the medium-level tribes, the stronger tribes, and the principal tribes which occupied the top class of the caste hierarchy. The lesser tribes, which constituted the bulk of the population spread across the entire continent, possessed the weakest strength, making them the easiest tribes to be annihilated and destroyed. The Heavenly Ape Clan was one of them, but from this day onwards, the clan would be lost forever from the face of the Samsara continent. Much stronger than the lesser tribes, the medium populations numbered many times lesser than the weaker tribes. Survival was hardly a difficulty as long as they remained prudent and keep themselves from crossing the paths of the greater tribes and principal tribes of the land. The Bone Devil Clan was one of these medium populations. Now, in the dale before Jin Wushuang, there were more than 10 tribes and clans in the vicinity. Only 3 of the 10 were tribes of the medium population. The stronger tribes would number even lesser still. As existences that lorded over the steppes and swords of the Samsara continent, the principal tribes of the land reigned with absolute supremacy. Most of the natives of the Samsara continent bore the bloodlines of ancient exotic beasts. Hence, even from birth, most of them were inherently stronger than common humans. This allowed them greater chances to sire offsprings who could be great warriors in the future. Yuan Gang had also revealed that most lesser tribes are led by chieftains, most likely Dao masters themselves. The medium populations would commonly have more than 10 Dao masters on retainer and a Dao master of at least rank 2 as chieftains. The stronger and principal tribes would most naturally boast of greater strengths than the rest. Even the multitudes of lesser tribes of the Samsara continent have Dao masters as leaders. With the countless heterogeneity in the number of tribes here, there must surely be numerous Dao masters here. Jian Wushuang thought. This would reinforce the belief that the Samsara continent was indeed very much stronger than that of the Void continent. The Void continent has, at most, a handful of Dao masters clustered together in a habituated area. Yet it was most certainly that the Samsara continent has more than double the number of Dao masters within an area, lending credence that the forces of the Samsara continent would most surely outstrip the Void continent by number and strength. A mere Samsara continent is able to impress you that much. Jian Wushuang? I stand to wonder how will you react when you one day venture into the deeps of the vast, eternal, chaotic world. The Gu King's pestering voice rang suddenly. These are but merely a few Dao masters. Warriors of such level of strength come in tremendous supply in the eternal, chaotic world that they are viewed as nothing but mere mediocrity. This made Jian Wushuang become speechless. Indeed, at present, he was just a person of a limited insight into the greatness of the universe. A few more questions, Yuan Gang. How long have you lived here? Do you know of the Samsara Temple? Asked Jian Wushuang again. The Samsara Temple? Yuan Gang's eyes widened. Of course I do. They are the most supreme sovereign to govern this lands. Not even the principal tribes dare compare themselves with them. Chapter 994, The Dragon Heart Elixir. Chapter 994, The Dragon Heart Elixir. Then you must have heard of the golden-clothed deacon. Jian Wushuang pressed on his inquiry. The golden-clothed deacon? Yuan Gang shook his head. No, sir. I have never heard of him, but I do know a thing or two about the silver-clothed deacon. It's said that the silver-clothed deacon of the Samsara Temple used to live among the Bone Devil clan. It was a tale so shocking that it sent ripples through the land. The silver-clothed deacon? Jian Wushuang muttered. His brows rose with doubt. The silver-clothed deacon was simply a rank 6 Reincarnator who commanded limited authority in the Samsara Temple. In order to locate his father, it is imperative that Jian Wushuang sought the help of the golden-clothed deacon. I am a mere practitioner of the eternal realm in a lesser tribe, sir. There is only so much that I know about the Samsara Temple, but I know one might be able to supply you with more knowledge about the temple, said Yuan Gang. Who? Jian Wushuang stared at him at once. The Dragon Wing Governor. Yuan Gang replied. Who is he? Jian Wushuang asked with uncertainty. He is the person who holds the greatest authority in this region. It was said that he wields the greatest strength around this areas, being a rank 3 Dao Master. More importantly, he's known to be a pleasant person who enjoys strong ties and connections with many allies. He is influential even amongst the warriors of the medium populations and the stronger tribes. There was word that he was searching for a treasure called the Juku Dragon Fruit several years ago. When word of his pursuit got out, many warriors came forward to lend him their aid. There were even promises of rich rewards to anyone who was able to come forward with the treasure. Still, the Juku dragon fruit had remained ever so elusive that none has been able to find one. By any means, he is the most influential person in this region. You can ask him for information about the Samsara Temple or the golden-clothed deacon. He might be able to help you if he's willing to lend you a hand. Yuan Gang said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with hope and confidence. Jian Wushuang had not expected that Yuan Gang would be able to supply him with information about the gold-clothed deacon's whereabouts. But Yuan Gang was able to lead him to the one person who might hold the key to the information he required, this Dragon Wing Governor. Where is this Dragon Wing Governor now? Jian Wushuang asked again. He resides at the Dragon Wing City, which is at the center of this region. Go along this way, sir. The journey to the city is just a few days' walk. Yuan Gang pointed to a direction as he instructed. Thank you. Jian Wushuang thanked him and asked another question. What are your plans now that your tribe is no more? That will hardly be a problem. We can easily join other tribes by posing as lone recluses. We might not have the respect we once had, but we will survive. Yuan Gang replied. Very well. Jian Wushuang nodded gently. With a wave of his hand, he produced something for Yuan Gang. There are some divine gems in this interspatial ring. These might be useful to you. Immediately, Jian Wushuang turned and left. Thank you, sir. Yuan Gang thanked him profusely, stealing a brief glance into the contents of the ring when it was handed to him. His face lit up at the revelation of its contents as he held it tightly in his grasp. He turned to his son. We will live in disguise from now on. Later, under no circumstances, you are to allow anyone to know that we are from the Heavenly Ape clan. The truth must be kept until you wield enough strength like the great man earlier. You will then seek to exact revenge for the deaths of our family and our kin. You understand? Said Yuan Gang gravely. Yes, I do, father. Lei Hao nodded heavily. You will also remember for the rest of our lives the kindness and grace shown to us by the great man just now. You will seek to repay his kindness one day when you grow stronger. Yuan Gang continued after pausing briefly. Yes, father. Lei Hao nodded again. It was finally many years later when a warrior called Lei Hao would emerge. With the bloodline of the Heavenly Ape awakened in him, he would then become one of the greatest warriors of the Samsara continent, where he then annihilated the Bone Devil clan as retribution for the atrocity they inflicted towards him and his clan many a great year ago. The boy would remember for the rest of his life the kindness that Jian Wushuang had shown him. Still, Jian Wushuang was nowhere to be found when he was ready to repay him. Going in the direction that Yuan Gang pointed to him, Jian Wushuang finally saw from afar a huge city after 2 days of traveling. It was a city so large that it dwarfed even the imperial city of the Tang Empire, even though the furnishings of the city structures are a little less magnificent and handsome. Despite the never-ending conflicts and battles that ravaged the lands of the Samsara continent, many great cities, such as this one, still endured strongly as ever. The city was called the Dragon Wing City, a city which was built by the Dragon Wing Governor himself. Conforming to how Yuan Gang had described him, it appeared that the Dragon Wing Governor indeed wielded great strength and influence. Jian Wushuang stepped through the gates of the city and asked around for directions to the mansion where the Dragon Wing Governor resided. The Dragon Wing Governor lives in that mansion. Standing in front of the well-guarded mansion, Jian Wushuang could feel the powerful auras of the sentinels watching the mansion, counting more than 5 Dao masters at least. Surely you have enough wits to know better than to rashly intrude upon the Dragon Wing Governor, Jian Wushuang? The Gu King's voice resounded suddenly. Jian Wushuang forced a wry smile. As the most prestigious figure in the region, it was hardly a surprise that many would travel from far and wide only to meet with the Dragon Wing Governor to solicit his aid or to make an acquaintance. As a stranger who had just come to the Samsara continent, Jian Wushuang had neither the standing nor the respect to command attention from the governor, especially when he wielded only the strength of the eternal realm. It would be nothing short of preposterous to expect that he would be immediately granted an audience with the governor, much less to request for an introduction with the golden-clothed deacon of the Samsara temple. Then what should I do? Asked Jian Wushuang. Did Yuan Gang, not mentioned earlier about the Juku dragon fruit, which many had sought for only to return with failure? The Gu King suggested intentionally. He did. Do you expect me to look for the fruit and use it to secure an audience with the Dragon Wing Governor? But I have not the treasure myself. Jian Wushuang could not help frowning. That is true. You don't have Juku dragon fruit, but you have the Dragon Heart Elixir, a concoction which was largely produced from the extraction of the Juku dragon fruit, said the Gu King. The Dragon Heart Elixir? Jian Wushuang repeated, perplexed and bewildered. During the siege of the imperial city of the Tang Empire more than 1 millennium ago, Jian Wushuang was able to chance upon the Dragon Heart Elixir. He had found it from one of the many enemies he had slain. It was also then when he had come across the interspatial ring and many other valuables and resources. Unless I am mistaken, Jian Wushuang, the Dragon Wing Governor wants the Juku dragon fruit because he intends to brew a Dragon Heart Elixir himself. The Gu King explained gravely. Chapter 995, The Sale. Chapter 995, The Sale. The Juku dragon fruit has only limited uses especially for a rank 3 Dao master, such as him. It is most likely that he wants the fruit to brew a Dragon Heart Elixir. The Gu King continued. The Dragon Heart Elixir does not have much use for common warriors, but it is extremely useful to draconic exotic beasts. This would imply that the Dragon Wing Governor possesses the bloodline of a tribe descended from dragons. He needs a Dragon Heart Elixir made of the extract of the Jutsu dragon fruit to awaken the potential of the bloodline he bears. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood finally as he smiled. Things will be much easier if that's the case. Jian Wushuang turned immediately towards the largest store in the Dragon Wing City. It was called Wan Xian Tower. Soon after he walked in, a steward came to greet him. How may I help you, sir? The steward, draped in robes of silver color, asked with a smile. I have an elixir that I hope you will be able to help me sell. Jian Wushuang spoke indifferently. An elixir? The silver-robed steward's eyebrows cocked, his interest fading rapidly. Of course we can, but the items that we broker to sell are normally extraordinary and valuable. Would you divulge the nature of your treasure, sir? It is a Dragon Heart Elixir. I wonder if it's valuable enough for you. Jian Wushuang produced a golden elixir, as he remarked with feigned nonchalance. Is that an emperor-leveled elixir? The steward could hardly believe his eyes as the sight of the extraordinarily rare elixir. As was the classification of magical weapons, elixirs and concoctions were also divided into different levels. Magical weapons are divided into eternal and emperor-leveled magical weapons, while some elixirs of extreme rarity were classified as emperor-leveled elixirs. However, emperor-leveled elixirs were very much rarer than emperor-leveled magical weapons, making these elixirs the highest grade in addition to being treasures of extreme rarity across the entire green fire world. Yet, even amongst all other emperor-level elixirs, the Dragon Heart Elixir was still one of the most outstanding of medicinal brews ever. Do you have any requirements as to the manner of the sale, sir? Asked the steward. You will only need to spread the word of my offer. Any interested prospects may come to me directly. Jian Wushuang replied, Very good, sir. And once the deal is done, you'd only need to pay us 1,000 divine gems for our services, said the steward in silver robes. Good. Jian Wushuang nodded. I heard that there's a large arena in the city. I shall be staying there during my wait. Anyone who is interested in procuring the elixir can find me there. Very good, sir. The servant replied. Completing his arrangements, Jian Wushuang headed to the arena. The steward then immediately began spreading the word of the Wanxian Tower's offer of the Dragon Heart Elixir for sale. Still, the Dragon Heart Elixir was hardly an elixir for common remedies and use. Despite its powerful potency, it was an elixir sought only by those few who really required it. Thus, the spread of the news did little to cause alarm in the Dragon Wing City. However, the news of the elixir resonated strongly with one person, the Dragon Wing Governor. Sitting quietly within the fastness of a secret chamber in the governor's mansion was a man with brown hair, handsome and stern in his armor of black. He was seated upon the floor, cross-legged, and his eyes shut. Strands of energies swirled around the man with brown hair, churning energies channeled by the man that laced with slivers of his bloodline power. His skin burned as his powers stirred, channeling as he mustered his spiritual powers. Sadly, it was a sensation that faded as swiftly as it came. The energies disintegrated into nothingness as everything simmered down. The man opened his eyes, disappointed as his face paled from his exertions. I can't utilize my bloodline power. Even with the help of the secret skill, I still have troubles channeling the power. The brown-haired man shook his head, dejected. I need a way to draw upon more of my bloodline power. That's the only way. A Dragon Heart Elixir. Only a Dragon Heart Elixir can increase my bloodline power. Alas, long I have labored to accumulate the many ingredients for the brewing of a Dragon Heart Elixir. But still, I lack the Juku Dragon Fruit. How long do I have to wait until it shows itself to me? The brown-haired man exhaled, his heart full of regrets. The secret skill he had acquired was imperative to his success. When his training was done, he would be able to leap up into a whole new level. Still, he needed strong bloodline power to fully use the skill, a requirement that he lacked severely. Governor, I've got great news for you. A message came suddenly. Great news. The man's face changed at once. Immediately he asked his servant, What news? Have you found news about the Juku Dragon Fruit? No, sir. It is news about a Dragon Heart Elixir, right in this Dragon Wing City. It was a warrior, one of his men who had come with the message. Even he was evidently excited about this news. I had just received the news moments before. Someone had requested Wanxian Tower to broker the sale of a Dragon Heart Elixir. What? The brown-haired man was first stunned before rushes of joy and ecstasy surged within him. Is it really a Dragon Heart Elixir? It is true. His subordinate confirmed. Ha ha ha. This is a good blessing indeed. The Dragon Wing Governor's eyes flashed with excitement. Much he had spent, efforts, influence, and all other resources he could ever field in his painstaking forage for a Juku Dragon Fruit, all for the one of brewing a Dragon Heart Elixir. Still, the rare fruit remained elusive. Through thick and fun, he had delved in vain, yet now someone had come with the offer of selling a Dragon Heart Elixir right before him. Where is this person now? The brown-haired man eagerly asked, finding out that the person with the elixir would be waiting at the arena in the city. The governor set off immediately. The arena of the Dragon Wing City was so huge that it occupied nearly a quarter of the city. A large, empty space reigned in the center of the arena, the ring of sand where the slaves fought to their death to the amusement of the audience mob, who would watch the bloody carnage from their seats at the side of the ring. Thrilled by the fights, the audiences would also place their bets on the bloodbath taking place within the ring. The yearn for thrill and the hunger for bloodthirstiness prevailed over the entire arena. Contrary to the fervor and delirium dominating the arena, Jin Yu lounged in a solitary chamber at the edges of the arena grounds, still clothed in crimson red as he sipped at his wine. A steward came to his door and spoke to him. "We have a patron from guest room 3 who requests your company, sir." "So it begins," Jin Yu mused, the edges of his lips curling into a smile. Chapter 996, The Dragon Wing Governor. Chapter 996, The Dragon Wing Governor. Jin Yu stepped into guest room 3 and found a brown-haired man waiting for him. "A pleasure to make the acquaintance of the Dragon Wing Governor, sir," Jin Yu announced respectfully. "I was right." The Dragon Wing Governor was hardly surprised. "I knew you were coming at me." It was no secret that the governor had spent much to hunt for the Juku dragon fruit. It was obvious of Jin Yu purpose to announce his offer in the Dragon Wing City. "What's your name? Which population are you from?" asked the Dragon Wing Governor. "My name is Jin Yu. I'm on my own, belonging to no population." Jin Yu replied. "Really? A recluse?" The Dragon Wing Governor smiled wryly. "So, it is true that you do have a dragon heart elixir." Jin Yu did not reply. Instead, he waved his hand and produced the dragon heart elixir. Recognizing the dragon heart elixir, the Dragon Wing Governor's eyes burned with excitement and yearning. "I see. It is true." The Dragon Wing Governor fought to silence his ecstatic anxiousness and stared at Jin Yu. "Anything you require, my friend. Please be forthright. I will see if I can be of service." The governor was a shrewd person, knowing that Jin Yu had surely come to him with the elixir requiring something in return. "In that case, I'll get to the point." Jin Yu smiled. "I have a matter which requires the help of the golden-clothed deacons of the Samsara Temple. Knowing that the number of deacons of the temple would rarely number highly, I knew neither any of them or their whereabouts. But I was informed that you, Governor, has always enjoyed great influence and authority in these lands. Hence I come to you, hoping that you may have the solution to my conundrum. You want me to introduce you to the golden-clothed deacons of the Samsara Temple?" The Dragon Wing Governor stared at his guest curiously, his brows furrowed with thoughts. "That's right," Jin Yu confirmed. The Dragon Wing Governor fell silent. The governor pondered for some time before he spoke again. Despite their unchallenged rule of the Samsara continent, the Samsara Temple does not interfere in the conflicts and strifes between the numberless populations inhabiting the continent. Even their divisional chapters are few and scarce. The golden-clothed deacons are one of the most supreme keepers of the temple, bearing unmatched powers and authority. Even the stronger populations would hardly dare displease them, for they bear the pride and vanity as being the principal custodians of the temple's might and influence. It is hard for common Tao masters to steal even a glimpse of them. That is the very reason I came to you. Jin Yu pressed. Jin Yu knew that it was, in essence, impossible for him to secure an audience with the golden-clothed deacons of the Samsara Temple by himself, but were only a handful of golden-clothed deacons in existence. Without many divisional chapters of the temple, it was impossible for him to secure knowledge of their whereabouts. Moreover, Jian Wushuang had expected that he would hardly be able to secure an audience with a golden-clothed deacon on his own. Therefore, he sought the help of the Dragon Wing governor. Some measure of reference would surely be useful in smoothing out his endeavors. After listening to Jian Wushuang's request, the governor forced a sardonic smile. Indeed, I do command ample influence around here. But unfortunately, I do not know any of the golden-clothed deacons. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang frowned with dismay. Then again, it is by a stroke of luck that I happen to know the residence of one of the deacons. I can bring you to him, but you will have to speak to him on your own about your errand, said the governor. So be it, Jian Wushuang replied in short, his eyes flashing with anticipation. Despite not having any relations to the golden-clothed deacon that he mentioned, it was already a great help that he was able to lead him to the deacon. He would then do his utmost to negotiate for himself the deacon's help once they meet. Jian Wushuang, the Dragon Wing governor, asked suddenly, "What business do you have with a golden-clothed deacon?" Well, Jian Wushuang paused momentarily before he smiled. I have a kinsman who had become a reincarnator of the Samsara temple 2,000 years ago. Since then, I have lost all news of him. I need the deacon's help to find him. Is that so? The governor nodded quietly, but information on the reincarnators are highly guarded secrets even in the temple. They are not easily disclosed. I am afraid the price for such tidings can be really costly indeed, assuming the deacon is willing to help you. Yes, many times costlier than a dragon heart elixir. By his words, the Dragon Wing governor had just implied that Jian Wushuang would best need preparations before meeting with the deacon. I know, Jian Wushuang said, nodding faintly. With the interspatial ring that he had received from Dao Yuanzi, Jian Wushuang has a huge hoard of riches and treasures, so great that it was unfathomable to common Dao masters. With such immense wealth in his disposal, Jian Wushuang was confident. He was confident that he would be able to satisfy the price of the deacon, no matter how costly it might be, to secure his help. When do we set off, Governor? Jian Wushuang asked. He could not wait to leave. Patience. The governor shook his head with a smile. I was informed that he had left his abode on some business for the temple 2 years ago. He has yet to return. Do you know when will he return then? Jian Wushuang frowned. I will need to ask. The governor said, as he immediately sent a message. It was hardly long before he received a reply. One of the deacon's men had just informed me that the deacon will return after 3 years. We will have to wait until then, said the governor. That will hardly be a problem. 3 years, it is then. Jian Wushuang nodded gravely. To him, 3 years was but a mere blink. For 2,000 years, his father had disappeared to become a reincarnator. 3 years would amount to nothing in the face of such time. You're welcome to take up lodgings at my mansion if you are yet undecided on accommodations. We shall see the deacon after 3 years, said the governor. I appreciate your gracious offer, sir. Jian Wushuang smiled. He presented the dragon heart elixir and gave it to the Dragon Wing governor. You seem rather anxious for this. You can have this now. Really? The Dragon Wing governor's face lit up. Never did he expect that Jian Wushuang would give him the elixir despite his promise of leading him to a golden-clothed deacon not yet fulfilled. Such courage! Was this confidence in the character of the governor, or was Jian Wushuang truly assured of his strength that he need not fear of the governor? The name of the Dragon Wing governor rings strongly across these lands. Surely that is worthy for my confidence in you. Jian Wushuang smiled. Chapter 997, The Slave. Chapter 997, The Slave. The Dragon Wing governor argued no more. accepting the dragon heart elixir with amazement. Despite his laborious efforts, he has yet been able to brew his own elixir. With only the simple price of leading Jian Wushuang to a golden-clothed deacon, he had finally possessed the elixir which he had so earnestly yearned for. Needless to say, he was awash with joy at his long-awaited wish fulfilled. Jian Wushuang wore a thin smile. The dragon heart elixir mattered not to him. It was his father's whereabouts which mattered most. Just then, what? Something Jian Wushuang saw made his expression change. He peered intently as his eyes glinted with concentration. The guest room had a clear view of the arena. From the windows of the chamber, he could clearly see two men brutally meleeing at each other. They were slaves of the arena who were of the eternal realm with considerable strengths of their own. Fighting against each other furiously, the audience mob were stirred into fits of electrifying euphoria and maniacal bloodlust as shouts and yells could be heard over the cacophonous hubbub. To the slaves pummeling at each other, the battle was nothing more than a do-or-die struggle of survival. It was a mere battle to death, which Jian Wushuang had little to no interest nor concern, until he noticed one of the slaves who was clad in a suit of scarlet armor, standing tall at the hulking 3 meters. His figure shone faintly with a mild blush of glow as he had shown himself in possession of great physical strength. His opponent was also a powerful fighter in his own right, having remarkable attacking strengths that was hardly eclipsed by that of the hulking slave. Still, the shorter man lacked the stout defenses of his adversary. The brute strength of the hulking man was greater even than warriors at the pinnacle of the eternal realm. With the help of his massive physical strength, his crude and savage methods of fighting earned him a victory as his opponent fell. All these did not escape the observation of Jian Wushuang's keen eyes. That huge man, the secret skill he's trained in, Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed his eyes, turning instead to the dragon wing governor beside him. "I have another favor to ask of you, Governor," Jian Wushuang said. "Please, anything you want." The governor answered, looking enthusiastic. "I want that man," Jian Wushuang said, his finger pointing to the huge man who had just emerged victorious in his fight. "That's easy." The dragon wing governor smiled. He summoned for a steward and whispered into his ears. The steward listened closely and swiftly disappeared through the doors. Within the subterranean catacombs beneath the arena where the slaves are kept, the huge man had just returned from his fight at the ring. He appeared amongst the slaves, swarming together, and plopped to a seat on the ground. 8 games, 12 more to go. The man hissed with his fists clenched. The slaves were bought at costly prices from warriors who had forced them into bondage and servitude. The slaves would then be thrown into the rings where they have to fight against each other in duels and games bet upon by the mob of audiences, generating huge profits for the management of the arena. Then again, there was but one way the slaves could regain their freedom. The slaves will be rewarded with their freedom if they are able to survive and win 20 games. With his most recent triumph, the huge man has won 8 games, leaving no opponent alive. He will have to secure 12 more victories to secure his much-awaited freedom. Then again, the slaves are mostly paired against opponents who were similar in power and ability. Even though he could almost see the end of his bondage, the huge man who yet doubtful if he could maintain his winning streak. "I wonder if I, Qingbin, will be able to return to my population one day." The huge man sighed quietly to himself. Just then, a steward came over to him. It was the very same who had been bidden by the dragon wing governor earlier. The steward peered intently through every face until he finally found the huge man. "You there? Come with me," ordered the steward sharply. "Me." The huge man was stunned as he grimaced with despair. "I had just finished 1 game, and I barely had time to recuperate." Are they forcing me to another fight again? You are not going to the ring. There are 2 masters who requested your presence. The steward explained. Me? What for? The huge man was puzzled. Just come with me, and you'll know. The steward said, simply, without explaining even more. Before long, the huge man was led into the guest room, where Jin Yu awaited. Stepping into the chamber, he saw 2 men sitting together. I present to you this slave, Governor, as you requested, the steward announced respectfully. This man shall henceforth be no longer a slave of the arena. The Dragon Wing Governor ordered. As you wish, Governor. The steward nodded his acknowledgement and left at once. This is the man you requested, my friend. The governor turned to Jin Yu with a smile. Good. Jin Yu nodded lightly. The slave was confused, perplexed, and bewildered. I'm no longer a slave. His face was filled with shock and disbelief, feeling slightly disorientated by the sudden turn of events. Never would he be able to believe any of this if it were not for the governor himself who had announced this through his own lips. Knowing that the arena had bought him at a dear price, he was certain that his freedom would never come easily. Be that as it may, the huge man could sense that the man who had just proclaimed his freedom from bondage was hardly simple and ordinary. He was addressed as governor. Could he be the Dragon Wing Governor? The huge man finally realized and stared at the 2 men before him strangely. Who is the stranger beside him, then? It seems that the Dragon Wing Governor holds him with great respect. A man who is only of the eternal realm. I have a few questions for you that I hope you are able to answer truthfully. Should I find your answers satisfying, you will be granted your freedom and you will no longer have to fight in the arena, said Jin Yu, studying at the slave before him. As you wish, sir. The huge man replied, growing anxious. He knew full well that it was essentially impossible for him to survive through 20 battles to achieve his freedom. Little did he doubt that he would surely die one day, lying in a pool of his own blood in the ring. Yet, now, before him stood an off chance that he might be able to escape his enslavement unscathed. I saw you fight. You're strong, said Jin Yu. I believe your brute strength comes from the bloodline you inherited and your secret skill. It has been cultivated to the highest degree. No? Yes, I did cultivate a secret skill that enhances physical strength, and the skill is already at the highest level. The huge man nodded at once. And unless I am very much mistaken, the skill that you have trained yourself in is none other than the immortality secret skill. Jin Yu revealed sternly. Chapter 998, The Rock Demon Clan. Chapter 998, The Rock Demon Clan. The huge man was shocked to hear Jin Yu speaking of the name of his skill. You, too, know about the immortality secret skill. I suppose that confirms my suspicion? Jin Yu face slowly broke into a smile. Not only he knew of it, but it was also a skill he was proficient with. Jin Yu had long reached the highest level of the immortality secret skill. This would also mean you know God Hong, asked Jin Yu. That was the name of the person who taught Jin Yu the immortality secret skill. A long time ago in the ancient world, Jin Yu had chanced upon a finger of God Hong. Through the severed finger, he had acquired the immortality secret skill, and he was fortunate to have encountered a fragment of God Hong's consciousness. The friendship they had forged was hardly something that Jin Yu could easily forget. Big Brother Hong? The man was even more shocked. Big Brother? Jin Yu lips curled into a smirk. I see. You're close. Of course we're close. The man clenched his fists as he related his tale heavily. We're both from the Rock Demon Clan. Big Brother Hong is the greatest warrior of the clan. He's kind and generous, always keeping our best interests close to his heart. I had once shown a glimpse of my talents a long time ago in the clan, hence he chose me and personally taught me the immortality secret skill. Unfortunately, I grew conceited. I ignored his warnings about the perils outside and wandered out on my own. I was abducted by some stronger enemies who then sold me to this arena. I see. Jian Wushuang cocked an eyebrow with feigned interest in the tale, but quietly he was thinking to himself, the Rock Demon Clan? Is it a junior or a medium population? It does not seem to be a stronger population. Jian Wushuang, said the Gu King's voice rang suddenly. Unless I am mistaken, the Rock Demon Clan bears the bloodline of the Rock Demon Giant, an infamous entity in the eternal chaotic world. The Rock Demon Giant. Jian Wushuang nodded and thought, God Hong has shown me a kindness by imparting me his skills. I should visit him someday, as he had bidden me to. Perhaps I can visit his population if opportunity allows. What's your name? Jian Wushuang stared at the huge man before him. My name is Qingbin, sir. He replied politely. You will remain by my side for now. Once my errand is done here, you will lead me to your population, where we will meet with God Hong. Jian Wushuang said. You know Big Brother Hong? Qingbin asked curiously. In a manner of speaking. Jian Wushuang smiled furtively. Jian Wushuang was relieved with joy. The Dragon Wing Governor had promised Jian Wushuang that he will lead him to the golden-clothed deacon after 3 years, and now his meeting with Qingbin had provided him an inkling as to where God Hong could be. With the offer of the governor, he and Qingbin subsequently took up lodgings at his mansion. In a secret chamber of the governor's mansion. I have 3 years until the visit to the abode of the golden-clothed deacon. This is an opportunity for me to continue with my training. Jian Wushuang thought quietly, pleased with the present upkeep. He had immediately returned to the Tang Empire when his physical body was first restored. Hence, he barely had an opportunity to properly train in the secret skills he had acquired. With the restoration of this body, his powers and strength, most notably his ancient god power, had increased substantially that he was now a 3-star ancient god. He could now further enhance his mastery of all of his 3 ancient god secret skills if he so chose. The Star River secret skill was one of the few that strongly required honing. It was known in full as the 34 levels of the Star River. Jian Wushuang had reached the 24th level of the Star River secret skill when he had reached the Eternal Realm, which was synonymous to the rank of the 2-star ancient god. The skill allowed him to amplify his powers by 72-fold. With his present rank of a 3-star ancient god, he could now enhance his mastery of the technique to its highest level. Alone in the secret chamber, Jian Wushuang focused fully on his training. A month fleeted by swiftly and unnoticed. I've reached the 30th level. Jian Wushuang's eyes opened with excitement. With the powers of a 3-star ancient god, he had reached the 30th level of the Star River secret skill. The newly attained heights of the skill would allow his strength to be amplified by 90-fold. This made his powers soar once more as his overall strength experienced a greater improvement. There is still ample room for improvements. I just became a 3-star ancient god. I might be able to reach the 31st or even the 32nd level of the Star River secret skill when I reach the pinnacle of a 3-star ancient god. Jian Wushuang smiled to himself. The Star River secret skill is but merely an ordinary ancient god skill, which doesn't take much effort. The Gu King's voice rang again. Ordinary. This surprised Jian Wushuang. The Star River secret skill was unquestionably the most integral technique in his climb to the heights he had attained today. Most other techniques commonly trained by most other warriors of the Green Fire world would only offer an amplification of strength of up to tenfold. It was a far cry away from the amplification effects accorded by the Star River secret skill, which offered him a boost of 90-fold. It was hardly an advantage he would rashly dismiss. That is only within the Green Fire world. There are warriors with techniques that amplify their powers up to more than 100-fold in the eternal chaotic world. Really? Jian Wushuang was left speechless as he could only behold with awe at the unmatched greatness of the eternal chaotic world. You need to focus on developing your very own Tao. With a Tao of your own creation, your strength will soar considerably. The greater is your Tao, so will your strength increases, said the Gu King. I know. Jian Wushuang smiled thinly. From henceforth, he began spending most of his time in the study of sword principles. The assimilation of the acumen in the creation of the strongest sword principle, the scroll which contained 19 other sword principles with his own extraordinary potential and gifts in learning skills of combat were all helpful to him. Before long, he had progressed at an amazing pace. In one of the gardens of the governor's mansion, Jian Wushuang was alone in the garden performing a stroke or two of the swordsmanship he learned absent-mindedly. He waved his blade casually. Every stroke that he cast seemed simple and crude, yet each of them was actually complex and intricate beneath the surface. A figure drifting past the garden witnessed his casual practice. Great finesse. He's very close to developing his own Tao. The dragon wing governor smiled. With a sudden leap, he disappeared from where he stood and appeared before Jian Wushuang. Is it not lonely for your blade without the company of a companion, my friend? How about a friendly duel, since we are both practitioners in the skills of using the sword? The dragon wing governor laughed loud, the echoes of his laughter spreading across the floral bed of the garden. Chapter 999, Mr. Jin Yu. Chapter 999, Mr. Jin Yu. A friendly duel. Jian Wushuang was surprised at the proposal at first, but he then felt overjoyed. Although the Dragon Wing Governor had just become a rank 3 Tao Master, his strength was no better than that of Jian Wushuang. With the ancient god power that he possessed and the blood-killing plate armor he wore, Jian Wushuang could easily defeat the governor in a duel. However, the governor's attainments in sword principles far outmatched his. As a rank 3 Tao Master, the Dragon Wing Governor would presumably have created 3 sword principles of his own. It would be an extremely instructive experience for Jian Wushuang to be dueling against the governor. We will both use only the powers of the Eternal Realm. Shall we begin? The Dragon Wing Governor smiled at him, like how an elder would when providing guidance and advice to a junior. The Dragon Wing Governor had viewed Jian Wushuang's gift of the Dragon Heart Elixir to him as a most priceless favor. He had not been idle when Jian Wushuang was busy with his training in the Star River secret skill, for he was also deep in training himself. With the aid of the Dragon Heart Elixir, he was able to invoke the bloodline power within him, allowing him to complete the training of his secret skill. His strength, too, has grown extensively. This made the governor felt guilty. In return for the elixir, Jian Wushuang had only asked to be introduced to a golden-clothed deacon. Noticing that Jian Wushuang was practicing his skills, the governor saw an opportunity where he could recompense Jian Wushuang by giving him some advice. So began their duel. Both of them deliberately restrained their powers, keeping below the eternal realm, for it was a contest purely of swordsmanship, not strength. When the duel first began, the Dragon Wing Governor did not perform any of his own sword principles. Soon after, He began to realize that Jian Wushuang's mastery of swordsmanship was far beyond his expectations. Jian Wushuang's sword danced with flourishes of smooth and refined strokes that he could hardly subdue. Slowly and steadily, Jian Wushuang was gaining the upper hand. With hardly any choice, the governor could only cast one of his own sword principles, regaining the leverage of the duel over Jian Wushuang. With that, the duel came to a swift end. The gap between one who has created his own sword principle and one who has not is most expectedly huge. Jian Wushuang thought quietly to himself. "How do you feel, Jian Wushuang?" The dragon wing governor looked at him and spoke. "The sword principle I have used just now was the weakest of the 3 sword principles I have forged myself. The other 2 are principles of the universe level. I am afraid you would have lost even swifter if I were to have used the other 2 principles." "Indeed, sir." Jian Wushuang nodded in agreement. Sword principles of the universe level were too powerful than that of the general level. "We still have 3 years together. Please do not hesitate to speak with me if you have any doubts about your training. I shall hope to be of service to you," the dragon wing governor remarked with a benign smile. The governor was in good spirits due to the surge in his strength because of his success in mastering his secret skill. "Thank you so much, Governor," Jian Wushuang replied happily, surprised and grateful at his offer. "Right then, you'd better concentrate on your training. I hope you will be able to create your own sword principles soon and become a Dao master as soon as possible," the dragon wing governor said. He then took his leave and left Jian Wushuang alone. Jian Wushuang fell into silence as he watched the governor leaving. The Gu King's voice rose suddenly, speaking strangely to him. "I believe the Dragon Wing Governor hopes to compensate you for the Dragon Heart Elixir by giving you some advice. It seems that he is not aware that you are, in fact, more powerful than he is." Well, Jian Wushuang smiled weakly. He is nevertheless a more proficient sword cultivator who had forged 3 sword principles of his own. He is doubtlessly qualified in instructing me in the mastery of sword principles. Humph, those are nothing to be proud of. What he possessed are merely 2 universe-leveled sword principles and 1 general-leveled sword principle. The Gu King snorted dismissively. Without any desire to continue their debate, Jian Wushuang continued with his study of sword principles. He began spending the most of his time in the governor mansion, studying about sword principles tirelessly, devoting most of his time in the research of forging the strongest sword principle, and the study of the scroll containing 19 sword principles. Jian Wushuang used the rest of his time putting swordsmanships to practice, going to the governor for counsel and advice in the case of doubts. The governor was only too happy to oblige, pleased that he was able to return the favor to Jian Wushuang as he tried the best he could to provide answers and instructions to the latter. Time passed swiftly as 3 years elapsed in a flash. Jian Wushuang had made good progress on his mastery of swordsmanship. With a far deeper understanding of the finesse and skills of the sword, he knew that he would soon be able to forge his own sword principle. Jian Wushuang was in a courtyard when the dragon wing governor approached him. "I have just received word that the golden-clothed deacon has returned, Jian Wushuang. It is time for us to go to him," said the dragon wing governor. The 2 had grown close since Jian Wushuang began staying at the governor mansion and going to him for advice on sword principle. The governor no longer addressed Jian Wushuang with ceremony. Instead, he now called his name with blunt frankness. "Let's set off at once then." Jian Wushuang could not wait any longer. "You will stay and wait for our return. Qing Bin." Jian Wushuang left Qing Bin his instruction and departed for the residence of the golden-clothed deacon with the dragon wing governor. The abode of the golden-clothed deacon was some distance away from the Dragon Wing City. It was almost a month's time of travel until Jian Wushuang and the governor completed their journey. "Look, that is the castle where the gold-clothed deacon lives," said the Dragon Wing governor. Jian Wushuang looked far into the distance and saw a vague black mass looming through the diaphanous mist that clung to the huge castle walls. "So, a golden-clothed deacon lives there?" Jian Wushuang thought. The spectacle of the scene sent a jolt of adrenaline through his veins as he clenched his fists tightly in anticipation. "Let's go," said the governor. Pulling Jian Wushuang with him, they rose into the air, stopping before the castle in midair. They had barely stopped when they saw a flash of flowing light dashed out of the castle. "It has been a long time since we last met Dragon Wing Governor." It was an elder robed in gray. The aged man regarded the governor with respect and modesty. "I would like to request that you pass a message for me, Dao Master Yi. Please send word to your master that it is I, with the company of a young friend, who is here to request an audience with him." The Dragon Wing governor asked smilingly, "One moment, please. I will announce your arrival at once." The gray-robed elder immediately relayed a message. The answer came swiftly enough. "If you would please follow me, Dragon Wing Governor." The gray-robed elder immediately led Jian Wushuang and the Dragon Wing Governor into the castle. They stepped into a richly adorned hall inside the castle and found a handsome man dressed in loose flowing robes of golden silk overlooking their arrival from the mezzanine of the handsomely furnished chamber. "My respects to Mr. Jin Yu. I am the Dragon Wing Governor." The Dragon Wing Governor introduced himself humbly. Beside him, Jian Wushuang paid his respects too by clasping his hands together in salute. Noticing Jian Wushuang's muted gesture, the handsome man remarked coldly, "I see your companion is a prideful person, Dragon Wing Governor." Chapter 1000, The Chaos Gem. Chapter 1000, The Chaos Gem. "I see your companion is a prideful person, Dragon Wing Governor." The barbed words from Jin Yu, the handsome man looking down at them, echoed through the alcoves of the magnificent hall. As a golden-clothed deacon of the Samsara Temple, Jin Yu had always reveled in the admiration and reverence showered upon him by others. Even the powerful or privileged from the stronger populations honored him with awe and deference. However, as a rank 3 Dao Master, the Dragon Wing Governor could have spoken to him with much lesser modesty. Still, it was expected that common Dao Masters should greet Jin Yu with utmost reverence. Any folk of the Eternal Realm, on the other hand, would be wont to bow on their knees when greeting him. Seeing that Jian Wushuang just had merely greeted him by a simple gesture, Jin Yu felt himself simmering with annoyance as he grew displeased. Then again, he did not know that despite Jian Wushuang's facade, his current strength could have allowed him the stature comparable to that of a Dao Master at the peak of rank 3. Jin Yu, as a rank 7 Reincarnator, would at most wield the strength of a rank 2 Dao Master. Little did Jin Yu knew that Jian Wushuang's simple and crude gesture was, in fact, an ample show of respect to him. Nonetheless, Jian Wushuang realized that he needed Jin Yu's assistance in locating his father. Swallowing his pride, Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and bowed deeply to him, saying, "My respects to Mr. Jin Yu. My name is Jian Wushuang." "Humph, that at least is tolerable," Jin Yu remarked coldly. The Gu King could not help but snort from inside Jian Wushuang's body. "This is ridiculous. It is he who is ignorant of your true strength, and yet he behaves arrogantly. If I were you, Jian Wushuang, I would have wrenched off his head right now. Still, it is his help that I require." Jian Wushuang seemed hardly perturbed. This little price would mean nothing if I can indeed find out about my father's whereabouts from him. Your patience amazes me. The Goo King curled his lips. Basking in the grandeur of his lavish chamber, Jin Yu hovered over his guests imperiously and said, "Your reputation precedes you, Dragon Wing Governor. Long have I heard your name uttered with respect and fear. What brings you here today?" "I am merely acting as an envoy for my young companion, dear Mr. Jin Yu. On his behalf, I would like to request your assistance." The Dragon Wing Governor replied. "Oh." Jin Yu's glance shifted from the governor and rested upon Jian Wushuang as he spoke proudly. "Tell me about it." Jian Wushuang stated his purpose immediately. "One of my closest kin from the ancient world was selected to be a reincarnator 2,000 years ago, but until now, I have yet to receive any word from him. Hence, I am here today to request for your help in locating his whereabouts." "You want me to help you find the whereabouts of a reincarnator? Humph, you are truly a bold one." Jin Yu's face darkened, and his deep voice reverberated over the eaves of the hall. "Are you aware that information about reincarnators is always a closely guarded secret, even in the temple?" "Yes, I do." Jian Wushuang nodded gently. Jin Yu continued, "I may be a golden-clothed deacon who commands considerable authority. Still, it is against the law of the temple that no one is to leak any secrets of such information, for even I will have to face the sentence for committing such sacrilege. With enough luck, I might only be sentenced to incarceration for tens of thousands of years in the first prison of the temple. Otherwise, not only I risk losing my title, I might even be executed. Never have we ever met, and yet you dare make such demands of me to divulge the secrets of a reincarnator. You must be delusional." With that, Jin Yu turned immediately with a flail of his sleeves. As he began to leave, he barked a command to his steward. "See our guests off, Yi?" Jian Wushuang panicked. Immediately he cried, "I understand the predicaments you face in helping me, Mr. Jin Yu. I assure you, I will be willing to pay the price for your help." "Price?" Jin Yu spun and stared at Jian Wushuang as he smiled coldly. "It's easier said than done. How can you, a mere youngling of the eternal realm, afford to pay such a huge price?" "Please, state your price, Mr. Jin Yu," Jian Wushuang implored gravely. "Oh." Jin Yu's eyes flashed suddenly as he spoke. "I will be blunt then, such being the case. 2 chaos gems. That is my price." "What?" The Dragon Wing Governor, who had yet to utter a single word while standing beside Jian Wushuang, exclaimed with his eyes furiously wide open. Despite his extensive wealth, even he could hardly be able to suffer the cost of 2 chaos gems as payment. "How dare Jin you put forward such a demand?" "Very well. 2 chaos gems, it is then. I agree to your terms." Jian Wushuang nodded swiftly. "What?" Both Jin Yu and Dragon Wing Governor renewed their looks into stares of disbelief and amazement at Jian Wushuang in unison. Chaos gems were rare precious gems found in deposits scattered across the eternal chaotic world, natural gemstones that bore great pecuniary value. All great and powerful warriors and nobles in the Green Fire world conducted their business and trade using chaos gems as the medium of exchange. A chaos gem was worth at least 100 billion divine gems. It is ordinarily equal to the entire wealth of a common rank 3 Dao master. When Jin Yu had loudly proclaimed his demand of 2 chaos gems, he had hoped to rebuff Jian Wushuang with a price so exorbitant and repressive that the latter would be forced to reject. Seeing as dealing with a mere youngling of the eternal realm as something beneath him, he did not want to negotiate with Jian Wushuang. Despite his malignant contrivance to relieve himself of the irk and insult, Never did he expect that Jian Wushuang would actually agree to his unreasonable terms. How was it possible that a mere weakling of the eternal realm would have the means of affording 2 chaos gems? Just when Jin Yu and Dragon Wing Governor were still speechless and dazed, Jian Wushuang revealed 2 gems in his grasp. The precious stones glistened handsomely, with a luster emblazoning the strange energies contained within. Here are 2 chaos gems as promised. You can have half a gem up front. The rest shall be paid to you once you have the answer to my request. Jian Wushuang cut one of the chaos gems into half and tossed one of the halves to Jin Yu. Jin Yu caught the piece of chaos gem. He studied the gem in his grasp and fiddled with it briefly, the look of astonishment still imprinted upon his face. It's really a chaos gem. It's unthinkable. A mere eternal realm fledgling has such wealth. Jin Yu looked at it in disbelief. It is the extreme scarcity of chaos gems in the green fire world that had endowed them with its immense value. In fact, Jian Wushuang would have won a simple recognition from him if he was able to produce treasures that would match the value of 2 chaos gems. Never did he expect that Jian Wushuang would actually present 2 genuine chaos gems. Jian Wushuang, this is not a trivial matter. Chaos gems contain the purest energy that is invaluable to warriors and martial practitioners. You might find them worthless for now, but you will be in dire need of them once you become a Dao master. The chaos gems that Dao Yuanzi had left you numbered few. To offer 2 gems at once is just, the Gu King implored to Jian Wushuang to reconsider. These only 2 chaos gems. It is a bargain in exchange for finding out my father's whereabouts. Jian Wushuang muttered solemnly. His chaos gems were all left to him by Dao Yuanzi. Nothing else, not even something as valuable as chaos gems, mattered more to him than the news of his father's whereabouts. Chapter 1001, The Outcome. Chapter 1001, The Outcome. So, Mr. Jin Yu, I've shown you the 2 chaos gems I have prepared for you. Will you help me? Jian Wushuang asked. Jin Yu looked at Jian Wushuang, now renewed with a faint glimmer of respect for the latter's ability to afford 2 chaos gems. The mere ability to be able to afford 2 chaos gems alone proved that Jian Wushuang was hardly ordinary. I will help you out of respect for the Dragon Wing Governor, and your promise of the 2 chaos gems, said Jin Yu. My thanks to you, Mr. Jin Yu. Jian Wushuang said, happily. The person I wish to locate is called Jian Nantian. He is a reincarnator from the ancient world who came here 2,000 years ago. Jian Nantian? Jin Yu nodded. I will do my best. Give me 3 days, and you will have your answer. You may stay here if you will, as you await my answer. That is fine with me. Jian Wushuang nodded his head. Let us stay here for 3 days, then. I am hardly busy for now, said the Dragon Wing Governor with a laugh. Please see to their accommodations, Yi. Jin Yu commanded lazily with a wave of his hand. As you wish. The gray-robed elder, named Yi, responded and immediately led them to their rooms. As Jian Wushuang and the Dragon Wing Governor left, Jin Yu stood motionless at the mezzanine with his feet still bare. A sly smile crept over his face. What luck! To think that I can earn 2 chaos gems through so simple a task. Jin Yu murmured gleefully. He had lied to Jian Wushuang, telling him that divulgement of news about reincarnators would result in terrible comeuppance if caught in the act. In truth, the news of reincarnators was not as closely guarded as rumored to be. In fact, the upper echelons of the temple guarded such secrets with merely a lackadaisical zeal. Thus, The leak of information about a single reincarnator would neither alarm the Samsara Temple, and nor would Jin Yu need to suffer any punishment. Apart from 2 chaos gems, there is still the Dragon Wing Governor. Jin Yu broke into a hushed, sinister glee. He conjured a token in his palm and delivered a message. Master Di Yin, I have 2 people currently taking up lodgings with me. I wager one of them might interest you. For the next 3 days, Jian Wushuang and the Dragon Wing Governor stayed temporarily in the castle. Anxious that he would finally secure news of his father's whereabouts, Jian Wushuang seethed with excitement. He grew so nervous that he could hardly calm down and focus on his training. 3 days passed quickly. Jian Wushuang and the Dragon Wing Governor were led back into the Grand Hall, where they once again met Jin Yu. Jian Wushuang, there has been an outcome on the errand you have bidden me of, Jin Yu said, looking down at them. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands tightly with hope as he looked at Jin Yu. I've searched for the name of the person you gave me, but no such man exists among all reincarnators of the temple below rank 7, said Jin Yu. No such man exists. Jian Wushuang's face turned. How could it be possible? Are you certain that you have examined the names of all the reincarnators, Mr. Jin Yu? Jian Wushuang asked anxiously. Humph. Jin Yu scoffed indignantly. Are you questioning my honor, Jian Wushuang? The domineering demeanor of their host left Jian Wushuang speechless. Standing beside him, the Dragon Wing Governor turned to him and spoke in a low voice. Be at ease, Jian Wushuang. Jin Yu is a golden-clothed deacon of the Samsara Temple and a warrior of great standing across the Samsara continent. With your promise of reward, I am sure he will do his utmost to see that your bidding is done. His honor is worth this much at least. I apologize for the impertinence, Jian Wushuang muttered, aware that he had overreacted. Mr. Jin Yu, with my companion's promise of so great a reward as 2 chaos gems, I am sure we can agree that he is absolutely certain that his kin must be one of the reincarnators of the temple. Is it possible for other reasons for not being able to find him? The Dragon Wing Governor asked. From his perch, Jin Yu glowered down once more as he answered, I've ascertained that there is no such man among all reincarnators below rank 7. There are only 2 possibilities that can explain this regrettable outcome. First, the person may have become a rank 7 reincarnator. Like me, information about him will be kept from me, since we are of the same rank. Jin Yu said. Jian Wushuang's expression changed into one of renewed optimism and promise. Yes, that's very likely to be the case. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands excitedly as flurries of thoughts, delighted yet on the brink of delirium, flowed through his mind. My father is a man of great talents. It is possible that he might have become a rank 7 reincarnator. It should be normal that Jin Yu cannot find him. And what of the other possibility, Mr. Jin Yu? The Dragon Wing Governor inquired again, the one other possibility being that he is dead. Indifferent to the weight of his grim message, Jin Yu continued, It is but unfortunate tidings that reincarnators rarely survive the tests of the Samsara Temple. Reincarnators are required to traverse and navigate their way through the countless trials and tribulations of certain death. It is even likely that not even one from the mass of 10,000 reincarnators could survive the grueling and deadly trials. Records of reincarnators who have died are completely erased, hence the inability to locate his name. Jian Wushuang, your kin, he hails from the ancient world, you say? He was chosen to be a reincarnator 2,000 years ago. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded his head blankly. It is not yet 2,000 years since he became a reincarnator. Ha ha! In spite of that, Jin Yu broke into a giggle. then he can only be a rank 1 reincarnator, since he was drafted from the ancient world. It is impossible for a rank 1 reincarnator to reach rank 7 in less than 2,000 years, not with the onerous difficulty of the tests of the temple. That would mean that your kin is more likely than not dead. Dead. Jian Wushuang was astounded by shock before he began shaking his head violently in denial. Impossible. That's impossible. His face darkened with despair. He was certain of his father's ability. The difficulties of the tests of the Samsara temple might be able to defeat most common warriors, but never his father. Be that as it may, I have completed the task as you have bidden me to. I have reported to you the outcome of my errand. You may choose to believe it, and you may not, but that is no longer any concern of mine. Now hand me the rest of the chaos gems you have promised me. Jin Yu boomed as he extended his hand. Jian Wushuang grimaced with anguish and denial. Biting hard, he handed the chaos gems to Jin Yu, even though the outcome was too hard for him to swallow. Jin Yu beamed widely as at the sight of the chaos gems. He then looked once more at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, there is a favor that I might be able to do for you. I can see that you do not approve of the outcome of my finding. Jin Yu said. Ah. Jian Wushuang looked up at Jin Yu incredulously. I am but merely a rank 7 reincarnator. I am only allowed access to information on reincarnators below rank 7. However, I am familiar with a certain rank 8 reincarnator who might be able to help you, for he is able to examine the information of all reincarnators below rank 8. I would not mind enlisting his help if you are agreeable to a reasonable reward. Chapter 1002, marked. Chapter 1002, marked. A rank 8 reincarnator. Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed with doubt. The Samsara Temple was a hierarchical organization. Rank 7 reincarnators could only procure information about reincarnators with ranks below theirs, but not of the same rank. However, information about rank 7 reincarnators was available to rank 8 reincarnators. News about his father might be able to be found by a rank 8 reincarnator if he had indeed made it to rank 7. And what will be the price of enlisting the help of a rank 8 reincarnator? Jian Wushuang asked. Hardly unreasonable. 10 chaos gems. Jin Yu replied, grinning widely. What? The dragon wing governor gasped with disbelief, his expression changing immediately. He. To think that this insolent pup has the impertinence to dare demand 10 chaos gems from you. As a mere rank 7 reincarnator, he would at most be a rank 3 Tao master. Under no circumstances, a wretch like him would worth 10 chaos gems. The Gu King snorted. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with simmering displeasure, for he, too, could see that Jin Yu was trying to be demanding. The price of 10 chaos gems was so great that not even a Tao master at the pinnacle of rank 3 could safely agree to such demand. With the treasures left to him by Dao Yuanzi, Jian Wushuang could still manage the outrageous demand of Jin Yu, but he was hardly a naive fool that would tolerate himself being fleeced for nothing. Mr. Jin Yu, will you be able to fully ensure that the rank 8 reincarnator will accede to helping me with my errand if the price of the 10 gems is promised? Jian Wushuang asked. Well, this, Jin Yu's brows furrowed uneasily. If you agree to my terms, I will speak to the rank 8 reincarnator. We share a friendship. There's a plausible likelihood that he will agree. By your words, there is also the likelihood that he will refuse. No? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course. He is, after all, a rank 8 reincarnator who holds greater authority over me. I simply cannot command him to do as I wish. Only he himself will decide. Jin Yu replied. Is that so? Jian Wushuang remarked, feigning a troubled look as he sneered quietly at Jin Yu. He may be truthful about speaking to the rank 8 Reincarnator about my plight, if I agree to his terms. Then again, he could be lying. He could easily dismiss the matter simply by lying about the Reincarnator's refusal to help, and none would be the wiser about his malicious deceit. I see. This Jin Yu does intend to defraud me of my chaos gems. Has he mistaken me for a complete fool? With a cold smile to himself, Jian Wushuang put on an earnest expression and nicely declined. Mr. Jin Yu, it was by an extraordinary fortuitous encounter that I had chanced upon 2 chaos gems. Regardless, I am afraid that is the extent of all I am able to afford. I am afraid I will have to solve my conundrum myself from another direction. Thank you for all your help thus far, Mr. Jin Yu, and have a good day. Really? Jin Yu stared at Jian Wushuang strangely. He muttered to himself, is he telling the truth or not? Despite his suspicions, Jin Yu could only wave his hand scornfully. I see. I see no merit in pressing the issue, then. See off our guests, Yi. This way, please. The gray-robed elder immediately walked up to them. Jian Wushuang and the Dragon Wing governor shared a thoughtful glance. In muted silence, they readily followed behind the gray-robed elder who led them out of the castle gates. Watching them leave, Jin Yu left the chamber and walked down into the dungeons of this castle, where another great hall, magnificent but yet dark with gloom, was raised underground beneath the foundations of the castle above. At a great distance from ground level, the great hall was far from prying eyes and ears, being guarded by many restrictions and enchantments. Jin Yu crept into the dark and sinister hall. Master Dian, the 2 have just left my castle. They will not be far. You can set off now. Jin Yu spoke into a wall that was embellished with mysterious cracks before him. Are you certain that one of them possesses the bloodline of the winged dragons? Jin Yu? An evil and insidious voice croaked from the other side of the wall. Of that, I am certain, sir. Jin Yu nodded with a smile. Ha ha ha, the winged dragon clan. For years I have been seeking for the still living remnants of this clan ever since its purge so many years ago. I hazard that their number will hardly be more than a handful now. His blood must be very tasty, indeed, said the evil voice. Master Dian, the Dragon Wing governor is a very influential person across the societies of the Samsara continent. There will surely be repercussions once his death is discovered. I am afraid that I might be beset with troubles and inconveniences then. I would like to request for an additional 1/10 increment to my agreed reward. Jin Yu beseeched. Fine. The evil voice agreed hastily. One other thing. There is a young man, a young warrior of the Eternal Realm who was here with the Dragon Wing governor. Please leave the young man to me, Master Dian. Jin Yu added, the Eternal Realm? Humph, so be it. The evil voice promised. Let us commence, then. It was not long after Jian Wushuang and Dragon Wing governor had left the castle that 2 figures fleeted out of the gargantuan structure of the castle, with one close behind the other. Jian Wushuang was speeding through the air, with the Dragon Wing governor just beside him, tearing across the vast expanse of the sky. Jian Wushuang, you have been marked. The Gu King's voice rose suddenly in his mind. What? Jian Wushuang was taken aback by the sudden and startling warning. Someone has secretly branded strange magical marks on you and the Dragon Wing governor, said the Gu King. Magical marks? Jian Wushuang's expression turned heavy. He knew full well how dangerous magical marks could be, having experienced it firsthand more than once. Once marked, one could easily be hunted down by foes who have placed upon him the magical spell. There was no way to hide one's sense save by undoing the magic of the mark. "It must be Jin Yu, then?" asked Jian Wushuang. "Indeed." The Gu King nodded, confirming his suspicion. "But his methods are most unusual. Neither you nor the Dragon Wing Governor had noticed when he had placed the spell upon you both. Still, his schemes did not escape my keen observation." "Is there any way I can erase the mark?" asked Jian Wushuang. "Yes, but it will take at least a day for the magic to be undone." The Gu King replied gravely. At this, Jian Wushuang stopped moving instantly. "What happened, Jian Wushuang?" The Dragon Wing Governor pulled himself to a stop as he noticed Jian Wushuang stopping strangely. "I'm afraid trouble has befallen us, Governor," Jian Wushuang admitted. "Trouble?" The Dragon Wing Governor's eyes turned wide as his pupils immediately shrank at the shock of the sudden revelation. Just then, a shrill howl that could send even winds quivering rang menacingly behind them. The two companions turned around instantly, witnessing a black and ominous mass of clouds sweeping toward them at an amazing speed. In a flash, it loomed precariously over them. Chapter 1003, The Sky-devouring Clan. Chapter 1003, The Sky-devouring Clan. The black clouds dissipated over them, disintegrating as the figure of a person dressed in black revealed itself. Fully cloaked in jet-black robes, it was an old man with black, mysterious cracks littered around his gnarly and creased face. The mysterious cracks looked strange and unusual, adding to the already ghastly and malevolent presence of the elder. A terrifying and devilish aura emanated strongly from him. "Ha ha ha! Here we have a member of the Winged Dragon clan, one who has become a rank 3 Dao master." The black-robed elder stared intently at the Dragon Wing Governor. His tongue dangled maniacally from his mouth as he licked his lips hungrily. "The Winged Dragon clan." Jian Wushuang's brows furrowed questioningly as he peered at the Dragon Wing Governor standing beside him. "It is me that he is after," the Dragon Wing Governor muttered as he narrowed his eyes. "Far and wide I've traveled the Samsara continent. For so many years I have consumed and feasted on the flesh of countless bloodlines. But never have I sampled the taste of one of the winged dragon bloodline. At any rate, I will have you today." The black-robed elder grinned wickedly. The next instant, he transformed himself into a dark gossamer apparition, hurtling towards the Dragon Wing Governor swiftly. Jian Wushuang was completely been overlooked as if he never existed. "Damn!" The Dragon Wing Governor's expression changed at the sight of the black, wraith-like mass charging at him. He could feel the staggering presence of the savage old man that left him frozen with panic. The elder was undoubtedly a rank 3 Dao master, one who wielded incredibly powerful strengths. A fear he never once felt crept into his heart, paralyzing him with fright and hysteria. It was a sensation of intense fear that tingled from the blood of the winged dragon in his veins. It was like the panic by a prey when was stalked upon by its predator. "He is after me, Jian Wushuang. Leave me and run." The Dragon Wing Governor shouted out to Jian Wushuang frantically as he turned into a crimson lightning bolt that immediately shot into the air and fled. The Dragon Wing Governor had escaped without even a fight. Jian Wushuang was slightly surprised. Jian Wushuang had noticed that the black-robed elder was a rank 3 Dao master, as was the Dragon Wing Governor. There should still be ample chance for a fight, for they were of equal rank. The differences between their strengths would hardly be huge. "Humph, he has made a right choice." The Gu King's voice rose suddenly. "Unless I am very much mistaken, the old man in black possesses the bloodline of the Sky-devouring clan. This clan is well known in the eternal chaotic world for being a fierce population that lives on the essence blood of exotic beasts. Common exotic beasts will be struck with a strange sensation of innate panic at the sight of one of the Sky-devouring clan, like how a prey would freeze with extreme fear when encountering a predator. With the extreme stress and anxiety inflicted upon the governor, no amount of strength will be able to help him defeat the old man in black. The battle has been lost even before it begun. Is that so? Jian Wushuang wondered, bewildered, and amazed. Then again, the kins of the Sky-devouring clan are rarely seen even in the eternal chaotic world. I didn't expect to see one of the Sky-devouring clan here in this world. The Gu King mused with interest. At the same time, Jian Wushuang noticed that the figure of the black-robed elder shook violently. A huge pair of wings, black, strong, and webbed, sprouted from his back suddenly. With his speed doubled, the old man shot through the air, with his wings flapping relentlessly, trying to catch up to the dragon wing governor. One of the Sky-devouring clan that possesses the heredity of bats. Their lack of great strength is compensated by immense speed. The dragon wing governor is in danger. The Gu King clicked his tongue in admiration. Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed. He too could see that the governor was in a desperate fight for his life, but he had not made any move to help his companion, because he sensed that their enemy numbered more than one. "Would you not show yourself, since you've come?" Jian Wushuang called with his voice spread around. As his voice began to trail off, the air near him shimmered, revealing a handsome man dressed in a robe of golden silk. "And how can I be of assistance, Mr. Jin Yu?" Jian Wushuang asked, as he regarded the handsome man coldly. The man, beyond all doubt, was none other than Jin Yu. "Ha ha ha, nothing. I'm only curious to know how could an eternal realm youngling, as you could so nonchalantly produce 2 chaos gems. Let me guess, you still have more, right?" Jin Yu grinned thinly. "Yes, I do." Jian Wushuang nodded indifferently. Overjoyed, Jin Yu continued, grinning widely. "1 chaos gem is more than equal to the entire fortune of a rank 3 Dao master. Would there not be dangers if you were to keep such fortune with you? Why would you not allow me to guard them in your stead?" "You are right. Such fortune is not safe with me," Jian Wushuang murmured. With a flick of his wrist, the unique glow of more than 10 gems radiated brightly as they spewed from the mouth of his sleeves and hovered in midair between them. Jin Yu felt his heart throbbed, beating with an anxiousness of greed and yearning at the sight of the riches before him. Without a doubt, these were all chaos gems. The brat has an entire trove of them. Jin Yu felt his body quivered with excitement. "The chaos gems are right here, Mr. Jin Yu. If you want them so badly, why don't you come and claim them?" Jian Wushuang said in a soft voice, the edges of his lips twisting into a suggestive but yet devilish grin. "I see. I will just be done with all the theatrics then." Jin Yu smiled wickedly. He waved his hand, summoning a strong gust of blowing wind that swept towards the chaos gems suspended in stasis, threatening to whisk them away. The gems floated lazily in the air. The strong currents of air surged at them, ensnaring them and buffeted them towards the direction of the waiting Jin Yu. Jin Yu could not help feeling overjoyed and jubilant at the impending hoard of riches rolling at him. But just then, whoosh, like a ghastly phantom, Jian Wushuang emerged in front of him abruptly. There was nothing but cold fury glinting in Jian Wushuang's eyes. He brandished the Blood Mountain sword, channeling an immense amount of ancient god power that churned wildly in his blade as Jian Wushuang readied himself for an assault so powerful and terrible. "Humph! With a loud snort that thundered forth, Jian Wushuang swung his blade with rage at his foe. The stroke, with a force that tore the void asunder, arced dangerously at Jin Yu. Unperturbed by this, Jin Yu scoffed with disdain. "You dare unleash your feeble might at me? You, a merely weakling of the eternal realm." Heeding at Jian Wushuang's incoming attack with contempt, he flailed his sleeve, throwing forth a translucent flash of light, an auric blade that smote at Jian Wushuang's sword. It was a stroke that Jin Yu casually cast forth, yet it held enough force to easily annihilate any warrior of the eternal realm. Not Tao masters of rank 1, be it a common rank 1 or one who was close to reaching rank 2, could hope to escape unscathed. He meant to put Wushuang to death, and he was clearly certain that the force of his stroke was enough to complete the deed. Therefore, Jin Yu did not cast even a glance at his quarry after performing his lethal reprisal. He was confident that the stroke would kill Jian Wushuang. What happened next, however, left him in complete shock and disbelief. Chapter 1004, Jin Yu's Doom. Chapter 1004, Jin Yu's Doom. "What?" Jin Yu blurted out. Jin Yu never would have thought that the auric blade he unleashed would be dispelled. His gaze had diverted to the pile of chaos gems, still hanging in the air. He had guessed that Jian Wushuang, at most, would be able to parry the ethereal blade that he conjured if he was lucky to survive his deadly stroke. But he could feel it. His auric blade had barely hit Jian Wushuang's blade when the sheer might of the sword essence released by Jian Wushuang had disintegrated the auric blade. With his sword essence alone, he had undone the magic of my auric blade. Is he so powerful? There was a brief flicker of horror that flashed in Jin Yu's eyes. He immediately waved his hand and summoned another auric blade, crimson red in color, that shot from above to defend him. Bang! A deafening bang resounded, sending ripples of shock waves sweeping into all directions. Immediately, Jin Yu felt a tremor passing through him. He heard a strange groan from his body before he was instantly thrown off his feet by the residual forces from the earlier clash erupting from his body as he was thrown backward. He was thrown so far behind for hundreds of miles until he finally stopped. How is this possible? Jin Yu looked at Jian Wushuang in shock. He was one of the proud and esteemed rank 7 reincarnators of the Samsara Temple, yet here he was being ignominiously thrown back like a rag doll during a fight against a mere wretch of the eternal realm. A mere wretch of the eternal realm. Jian Wushuang looked into the distance, casting his sight as far as he could at Jin Yu, who was hundreds of miles away, with astonishment. Most of the rank 7 reincarnators of the temple are Tao masters who have reigned the pinnacle of rank 2. I suppose Jin Yu is one of the few who have reached rank 3. Be that as it may, he is but only a Tao master who has barely grazed the threshold of rank 3. Such strength is hardly worth any notice in the face of yours. The Gu King remarked. Jian Wushuang instead looked far into another direction. Far away in another direction, Jian Wushuang could sense that the black-robed elder had caught up to the Dragon Wing governor and was engaging him in a fierce battle. The merciless exchange of blows among them was so destructive that even Jian Wushuang could feel the quiver in the air around him. The governor is in great trouble. I have to finish off Jin Yu as soon as possible and assist him. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and dashed toward Jin Yu instantly. How is it possible that an eternal realm youngling wields such power? Jin Yu was gathering himself when Jian Wushuang had already appeared in his presence. At the same time, crack! An ear-splitting crack reverberated through the air. A pale purplish lightsaber had appeared before him without him noticing. What's this? Such impossible speed. Jin Yu was astonished. He instantly threw himself backward, frantically waving his saber as he tried desperately to fend off any incoming attacks. Out of fear and panic, he was unable to concentrate his powers into the blows he earlier cast, but being well prepared this time, he mustered his powers and executed a blow with all his might, hewing into the air with a force so great that a huge ray of light tore through the air from his blade with the semblance of a dazzling river of light. Clang! There came a loud clang of steels gnashing against each other. Jin Yu was thrown back once more. Only this time blood trickled from the edge of his lips, adding to the already pitiful state of his demeanor. Am I being soundly trampled? Jin Yu gasped to himself, astounded beyond measure. He did not know that what Jian Wushuang had performed was the second sword formation of the Ninth Heaven sword formation, that with the abilities of the blood-killing plate armor fully activated, Jian Wushuang could match the strength of a Dao master at the pinnacle of rank 3. As a Dao master who has barely grazed the verge of rank 3, Jin Yu would most undoubtedly be beneath Jian Wushuang in strength and power. Crack! Once again, the pale purplish lightsaber defied both the laws of time and space and appeared before Jin Yu. Such speeds are impossible. Jin Yu panted, his face turning pale with fright. The greatest strength of the Ninth Heaven sword formation was, after all, in speed. The second sword formation, otherwise known as the flash sword formation, allowed its user to traverse the distances of thousands of miles in an instant, an ingenuity that was worthy of its name. Overwhelmed by fits of panic and fright, Jin Yu flailed his sword wildly, trying desperately to fend off the menacing lightsaber. Again and again, he resisted the blows cast by Jian Wushuang, and each time he was thrown backward, his internal wounds growing increasingly severe as his strength and power slowly spent, as was his speed. Death was upon him now. A fear that he had never known crept slowly into him, ensnaring what was left of his sanity. Never would he have believed that a mere warrior of the eternal realm would be able to strike such intense fear into him. This sword formation, its powers, its swiftness, I cannot keep up. I cannot. Jin Yu cried manically, looking as if he was on the brink of madness. Jian Wushuang, stop, stop. Your chaos gems. I promise I will covet of them no longer. And I promise you I'll help you to persuade the rank 8 Reincarnator I mentioned to track down your father. Please stop. Please just stop. Stop right now. Heeding nothing of his desperate pleas, Jian Wushuang continued unleashing his brutal onslaught with the Ninth Heaven sword formation. Ridden by steel and pain, Jin Yu's life inched closer to death. No, no. Jian Wushuang, I am a golden-clothed deacon of the Samsara Temple, a rank 7 Reincarnator. You can't kill me. You cannot kill me, Jian Wushuang. You will be visited upon by the consequences of your actions. Wait and see. Just you wait and see. Ha ha ha. Jin Yu's terrible and painful howls and shrieks of pain slowly subsided, replaced with delirious cries and roars of his final ounces of defiance. Regardless of his foe's plight, Jian Wushuang mercilessly continued with the execution of his blows to rain death upon his adversary, wearing a blank expression of utmost indifference and callousness. Before long, Jin Yu, a once great golden-clothed deacon of the Samsara Temple and a rank 7 Reincarnator, fell to his doom under the blade of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and whisked Jin Yu's interspatial ring with an unknown current of air into his grasp before he pocketed the ring with a cold and stern look on his face. Ridiculous! My earlier courtesy to you was due to my need of your assistance. Your arrogance and haughtiness I have endured, despite your attempt to fleece me because of your standing as one of the golden-clothed deacons of the temple. Yet you dare to attempt murder only because I have eluded your devious scheme. You must have mistaken me for a useless fool." Jian Wushuang reflected quietly, his appearance cold with fury. Throughout their encounter, Jin Yu had shown him not even an ounce of respect, wearing an insufferable air of smugness and pride since they first met at his castle. He had even made unreasonable demands and had tried to defraud him out of his greed. These had all been tolerated by Jian Wushuang with an atypical patience. Yet, now Jin Yu had tried to murder Jian Wushuang after he had left his castle because of the chaos gems the latter possessed. Never would Jian Wushuang tolerate this insolence and contempt any longer. Jin Yu's standing and influence in the temple meant nothing to Jian Wushuang. Being a brash person that he continually was, and one who has a blatant disregard for niceties, not even the threat of reprisals from the temple would dissuade him for executing the impudent wretch of Jin Yu. With the deed complete, Jian Wushuang lingered no longer. He took into the air, speeding toward the other direction. There, he knew, another fierce battle was taking place. The Dragon Wing Governor was at a severe disadvantage, and his very life hung on a precarious balance. Chapter 1005, That Population. Chapter 1005, That Population. At another site of a battle. Dragon Wing Governor, waste your energy no more. There is no escaping my clutches. Your flesh shall be a pleasure to my palate. The essence blood of the winged dragon clan might not be the purest, but still it should be no less satisfying to my Epicurean zeal. The gray-robed elder licked his lips fervently. He flailed his arm, casting forth a force that struck the Dragon Wing Governor and sent him staggering backward, injured. "You evil swine!" Patches of blood stains scattered around the robes of the Dragon Wing Governor, with blood still oozing from the wounds around him. Despite his miserable appearance, he was still stout of heart, unwilling to give up until his last. This man possesses a bloodline that has a strange predisposition that keeps me restrained. I might have able to fight equally against him if only I can summon the full use of my powers. Yet a strange, inherent fear overwhelms me, putting a check to my strength that I can use only 7/10 of my full abilities. The Dragon Wing Governor thought, distraught and anger at his weakness. He had been troubled and torment ever since his battle against the gray-robed elder began for being unable to fully put to use his complete strength. Such was the might of the Sky-devouring clan, the very reason for their notoriety and fame across the eternal chaotic world. The dominion wielded by the Sky-devouring clan over the rest of the populations made it one of the most powerful races of population in the eternal chaotic world. Still, this authority affected only the races or clans of bearing the bloodlines of common exotic beasts. Those who possessed stronger and more potent bloodlines, such as the bloodline of the imperial ancient gods, as borne by Jian Wushuang, would hardly be subdued by this ability. What should I do? He is so quick that I cannot outrun him. Yet, I am powerless against him in battle. Am I to meet my end here on this day? The Dragon Wing Governor was not willing to resign himself so easily to fate. Just then, the figure of a young man tore swiftly through the air and stopped before him. Jian Wushuang. The Dragon Wing Governor gasped upon realization of Jian Wushuang once he saw clearly who it was, but he immediately frowned with angst and doubt. It was apparent that the gray-robed old man wished only him and not Jian Wushuang. The latter should have earlier heeded his advice and flee as fast as he could. Yet here was Jian Wushuang, throwing himself into the perilous embrace of death. "Governor, are you safe?" Jian Wushuang glanced at the Dragon Wing Governor. "Why did you not escape, Jian Wushuang?" The Dragon Wing Governor asked in a deep voice. Why should I? Jian Wushuang replied with an unfazed ease, his gaze shifting towards the gray-robed elder. The old man instantly froze at the sight of Jian Wushuang arriving. How is it that you are still alive? The elder asked with astonishment and surprise. Where is Jin Yu? Together, he and Jin Yu had earlier mounted the assault on Jian Wushuang and the Dragon Wing Governor. They had both agreed that the elder would attack the Dragon Wing Governor while the youngling of the Eternal Realm would be left to Jin Yu. It was expected that no mishaps should have come to Jin Yu, as he would be dealing with a weakling of the Eternal Realm. Yet the youngling was now before him, still very well alive. But what of Jin Yu? Jin Yu? Ha ha ha. Surely you are hardly a fool. Elder, do you not know where he is? Jian Wushuang sneered playfully. The elder's eyes narrowed with suspicion, and he sensed Jin Yu's fate. Have you slain him? The elder asked with a growl. Naturally. Jian Wushuang confirmed with a cool nod. Looks of disbelief and amazement flashed upon the faces of the gray-robed elder and the Dragon Wing Governor at the shocking revelation. A mere warrior of the Eternal Realm was able to slay a rank 7 Reincarnator of the Samsara Temple. Is this even possible? Jian Wushuang, the Dragon Wing Governor was ridden with great amazement that he could hardly speak. Say no more. Let us first deal with the old senile before any further prattle. Jian Wushuang flashed a wink at the governor. Agreed. The Dragon Wing Governor nodded heavily, still unable to shake off the torpid lethargy of the stupefying awe. I may not know how could you have slain Jin Yu, you mongrel pup, but I am neither he, nor I am as feeble as he is. Defy me, and you taste death itself. The gray-robed elder growled menacingly, but he struck immediately without mercy. The elder cast forth his stroke, a stroke that looked so simple and powerless as a casual pat. So casual it seemed, yet the stroke had conjured a huge black hole that spanned hundreds of miles wide in the air, bearing a powerful force that threatened to rip and tear at everything that it drew to itself. The huge void of darkness bore swiftly down upon Jian Wushuang. Watching this, Jian Wushuang's lips curled with contempt as he took one step forward. The first finger of the ancient god, the barrier-breaking stroke, a churning mass of ancient god power, gathered in Jian Wushuang's hand as his outstretched arm glowed slowly in dark gold. He pointed his finger towards the incoming eddy of darkness. Rumble! The sky burst into a loud, groaning rumble as a gigantic finger of gold stretched from nowhere and struck furiously at the colossal black hole. Bang! There was a huge, deafening bang that rocked the earth and shook the mountains. The terrifying shockwave rippled and swept with a destructive force, ripping apart the void, pounding all floral and vegetation on the ground into dust and filth. Jian Wushuang's body trembled as he staggered backward. With each step he careened, he fell thousands of miles behind. You are hardly weak yourself, old man, Jian Wushuang muttered as his eyes flickered with cold fury. The stroke that he had just performed was, in fact, his full strength, but the old man was able to match him without being on the defensive. It was beyond any doubt that the old man was slightly above him in power. With the progress I've made recently, especially the Star River secret skill that I have managed to enhance to the 30th level, I should be able to match the strength of a Tao Master at the pinnacle of rank 3. But this old man was able to subdue me by his sheer raw power, such as the power of true rank 3 Tao Master. I see. Jian Wushuang thought. There were differences in each rank of a Tao Master's progression that distinctively varied in terms of power and strength. Rank 3 Tao Masters, for instance, were divided into 3 separate levels: elementary, Advanced, and Peak. Jin Yu, being a hair's breadth away from reaching rank 3, was merely a rank 3 Dao Master of elementary proficiency, one who could even be seen as ineffectual even amongst the rest of those with elementary proficiency. The Dragon Wing Governor had turned into a rank 3 Dao Master of advanced proficiency ever since he had completed the mastery of his secret skill with the help of the Dragon Heart Elixir. During his time in the Tang of the East, Jian Wushuang's strength was a match with a rank 3 Dao Master of advanced proficiency. He would hardly be able to hold his own in a match against Master Ku. But his strength had risen in recent years, most notably the mastery of the Star River secret skill. His strength was now equal to a rank 3 Dao Master who was at the pinnacle of advanced proficiency, only inches away from peak levels. The gray-robed elder's ability to subdue him with sheer raw strength meant that he was a true Dao Master at the peak proficiency of rank 3. His powers paled only slightly, if not on a par, when compared to the ilk of Emperor Shao and Emperor Yun, who were very close to the Holy Master level. Such was a might that Jian Wushuang himself would also have to be wary of. Jian Wushuang was still in the midst of beholding the greatness of the elder's strength, but the evil old man's mind was troubled and disturbed. This wretched pup's powers, a mere eternal realm fledgling, could wield such powers against me. My powers have barely been able to subdue him. Wait, that power he just used, is that the bloodline power? Could it be that he belongs to that race of population? Yes, there is no questioning. I can sense the strength of that potent bloodline in him, and one of incredible standing and bearing within their ranks. Things would indeed be vexing and bothersome if that very race of population decides to interfere. Chapter 1006, Consider Yourself Fortunate. Chapter 1006, Consider Yourself Fortunate. Not even the gray-robed elder could resist a creeping fear slinking into him at the notion of that very race. They were one of the most powerful races of populations on the Samsara continent. You can never hope to match my powers, brat. Leave now while you can. The elder uttered as he cast a cold glance at Jian Wushuang. Ridiculous. You seem to imply that you can easily kill me, like how you raise a finger. Show me if you dare. Jian Wushuang taunted without fear. A faint smile lined across his face. Very well. It is you who seeks death on your own volition. I am not to be blamed. The elder hissed as his eyes flared murderously. The elder knew that he would only have to ensure no loose ends were left, and he would not have to worry of vengeful reprisals from that very race. Humph! With a furious and contemptuous snort, the mysterious runic symbols on the face of the gray-robed elder began to shine with a dark, glowy luster. The evil and sinister illumination grew, slowly enveloping him whole, bathing him fully in the faint brightness. The elder spread his bat-like wings to their entirety, his figure too growing in size. In mere seconds, the gray-robed elder had morphed into a hulking giant, bearing an uncanny resemblance to that of a monstrous bat. Ah, Jian Wushuang looked with his eyes wide at the spectacle of the bat-like giant before him. Ha ha ha! Remarkable! His secret skill allows him to manifest the primeval form of his bloodline. The Gu King said. The blood-red eyes of the giant black bat flashed with malice, and it took into the sky with tremendous speed, like a lightning bolt. Screech! The gigantic bat emitted a cry that shook all heaven and earth. With the fierce and shrilling cry came a powerful sonic wave with effects that would disorient foes, and enemies rushed and swept towards Jian Wushuang. Ah, this is vexing, Jian Wushuang muttered, his face turning gloomy as even he was discombobulated himself. Suddenly, the huge black bat reappeared over Jian Wushuang with the intensity of a lightning strike, baring its fangs ravenously at him. So fast was its blitzing assault that its jaws snapped, and its fangs sank deep into Jian Wushuang's chest as the bat clenched him in its vice-like grip before he could recover himself. The giant bat mustered its strength for a fatal bite, unleashing a powerful and terrifying force. Jian Wushuang! The dragon-winged governor cried with distress and great astonishment. Crack! There came an abrupt groan from between its jaws. The pupils of the black bat contracted fiercely all of a sudden, laced with horror and panic. Immediately, from its throat, the bat spat out Jian Wushuang and lurched backward. The figure of Jian Wushuang was belched out violently, along with a broken half of one of the bat's fang. The fang, without no doubt, belonged to the giant bat, but it was broken when it was thrown out of the monster's mouth. The monster morphed by the elder had attempted to clamp its jaws upon Jian Wushuang, but only to have its fang broken instead. The dragon-winged governor stammered, dazed and bewildered. The giant bat had retreated some distance away to safety. It shrank and returned into the form of the elder in gray robes, whose eyes regarded Jian Wushuang with fear and horror. The gray-robed elder grimaced with agony and paid as well as the panic that now gripped him. He had morphed into his strongest form, used his greatest might, and had used his most powerful attack. It was an attack which would have even shredded a true rank 3 Dao master into nothing but globs of lifeless flesh, viscera, and blood. With great effort, he had exerted great force, yet not only Jian Wushuang was hardly hurt, it was the elder himself who had got injured. This is impossible. Not even a powerful Dao master of that race would be able to withstand the force of my bite, much less damaging my fangs. Unless the gray-robed elder stared with at Jian Wushuang, finally noticing his blood-red robes. Twice he had struck, most notably his recent attack in the form of a monstrous bat. Nonetheless, the Jian Wushuang's blood-red robes remained intact, creaseless and wrinkleless. The blood-red robes he wears must be a treasure. It's a potent treasure of protection. The gray-robed elder muttered, understanding finally. Jian Wushuang taunted him with a sneer. I see your fangs are no less softer than even my body, old man. Jian Wushuang, the dragon-winged governor, approached him and spoke to him. I've sent a word to a friend of mine. He'll come to our help. Oh, Jian Wushuang remarked, his brows twitching dramatically. He turned to the gray-robed elder and shouted, Did you not hear, you old senile? Why are you still here? Do you intend to bite me again? Come if you will, we will see how many more fangs you can afford to lose. The older man's face grew dark with suppressed rage, but there was nothing he could say to retort. Never would he dare to venture another bite on Jian Wushuang once more. The young knave's strong defensive capabilities makes it impossible for me to kill him. More so with his remarkable strength. It's impossible for me to kill the dragon-winged governor now that he is here. The old man deliberated over his decision, finally relenting and gave up. What a pity! It seems that today I won't have the chance to relish the taste of essence blood of winged dragon clan. Consider yourself fortunate, you young knave. The gray-robed elder licked his lips and shot a hateful glance at Jian Wushuang. But don't be conceited. Jin Yu is a rank 7 reincarnator of the Samsara Temple with considerable influence and allies. With his death, many will hunt for your blood to avenge him. Not even your race will be able to defend you. Just you wait. With a final look at Jian Wushuang, the gray-robed elder snorted furiously and vanished into thin air with a swing of his sleeves. Jian Wushuang and the dragon-winged governor watched as the older man vanished, showing no intentions of pursuing him. They both knew full well that the gray-robed elder wielded greater strength over them both. They would never be able to prevent his flight. Finally, he's left. The Dragon Wing Governor breathed heavily, relieved. It was not until the old man had fully disappeared that the panic that throbbed at his heart began to calm and subside. Thank you, Jian Wushuang. It was by your help that I was able to survive this ordeal. The governor expressed his gratitude sincerely. It is my pleasure, Master Governor. I have enjoyed your hospitality and your advice for the 3 years of my stay at your residence. Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. The Dragon Wing Governor was instead faintly surprised before he continued weakly. Nay, I've been conceited and vain. You have great strength, much greater than mine, yet I tried to give you instructions and advise you. This is... The Dragon Wing Governor's voice faltered, as he could only sigh, with somberly. Feeling that he owed Jian Wushuang for his gift, he had tried to return the favor by giving him instructions and advice to help him improve his swordsmanship. Trying to advise Jian Wushuang as an elder, he under the impression that Jian Wushuang was indeed a mere youngling of the eternal realm, believing himself to be qualified to counsel, instruct, and advise the young warrior. It was not until today that he finally realized that the young warrior was, in fact, a stronger warrior than he was. Chapter 1007, The First Sword Principle. Chapter 1007, The First Sword Principle. The old senile has left. Governor, there is no longer any need for your friend to come. Jian Wushuang said. Indeed, I've sent him a message. The Dragon Wing Governor replied, and I Jian Wushuang strangely. Jian Wushuang, are you truly of the eternal realm level? About this, Jian Wushuang rubbed his nose awkwardly before he muttered, Let's have this conversation when we reach the city. Agreed. The Dragon Wing Governor assented with a nod. With that, Jian Wushuang immediately set off for the Dragon Wing City with the Dragon Wing Governor. Back at the governor's mansion of the Dragon Wing City, Jian Wushuang and the Dragon Wing Governor sat together and began their talk. Unless I am very much mistaken, Jian Wushuang, you're not a native of the Samsara continent. No, the Dragon Wing Governor spoke with a thoughtful smile. Why do you think so? Jian Wushuang asked with surprise. It would have been impossible for a person of your potential to remain unknown in the Samsara continent. This would only mean that you must be from the outside of the continent. You are a warrior from the Void continent. I wager? The Dragon Wing Governor hazarded a guess. You are quite perceptive, Master Governor. Jian Wushuang couldn't help grinning and admitted truthfully, Indeed, I come from the Void continent. I am here only to seek for the close kin of mine. It is as I expected, the Dragon Wing Governor remarked with a smile. That is why I have been communicating with others to help you ascertain the matter. Jin, you had spoken the truth. His failure of securing information about your kin would mean that your close kin could either have risen above rank 7, or he might already be dead. Then again, I dare say there is no way you would readily accept the second result. That leaves you with only one option. You will have to find a rank 8 Reincarnator of the Samsara Temple. Rank 8 Reincarnators are Tao Masters at the pinnacle of rank 3. Even amongst the horde of warriors that throngs the Samsara Temple, there are but only a handful of warriors of such caliber. One would hardly expect to be able to even catch a glimpse of such elusive individuals. Even with my extensive influence, I am afraid I will not be able to help you in this errand. You have much to delve on your own from this point now. The Dragon Wing Governor acknowledged his regret for his inability to assist Jian Wushuang. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded gently. Then he said, Nevertheless, there is no longer need for hurry, since my father is not among the reincarnators below rank 7. the large and wide Samsara continent teems with numerous warriors. I can travel around while looking for him. Reincarnators of the Samsara temple did not have to worry much about their own safety once they had reached the level of rank 6. Rank 7 reincarnators were at an even higher level, which made it more difficult to kill them. His father would surely be safe if he has surpassed rank 7. Thus, there would be hardly any need for haste. Where are you going next? The Dragon Wing governor asked. Well, I did liberate the warrior slave from the gladiator's arena who is of the Rock Demon clan. I was once indebted to another great warrior of their clan. I intend to go there first. Jian Wushuang said. When do you intend to set off? The governor pressed on. Now, Jian Wushuang said. I see. In that case, I will delay you no longer. The governor smiled, waving his hand as he conjured 2 magical tokens. Here are 2 tokens. One of them is my message token. Send word to me at need. I will do my utmost to have you as best I can. The other token is the most detailed star map of the Samsara continent available. 9/10 of the territories of the Samsara continent is mapped upon it. I think it would be useful to you. Thank you very much, Master Governor. Jian Wushuang replied. He accepted gladly the 2 tokens and bid his farewell to the Dragon Wing governor. I shall hope that we will be able to meet again, Master Governor. On the same day, Jian Wushuang began his journey to the bastion of the Rock Demon clan, with Qing Bin with him. Gliding over the swords of a broad and wide plain, Jian Wushuang pored over the star map that was given to him by the Dragon Wing governor. It is still a great distance between here and the region of the dwellings of the Rock Demon clan. With hardly any usable wormholes on the Samsara continent, we will have to traverse over the entire stretch on foot. Given our traveling speed, it'll take Qing Bin and me at least 5 years to complete the journey. Jian Wushuang murmured to himself. 5 years was hardly a long time for Jian Wushuang now. In the coming days, I will delve into the studies of sword principles during my journey. Jian Wushuang said, smiling cheerfully. He cast a look to his companion behind him and beckoned. Let us continue then, Qing Bin. Yes, master, Qing Bin said, nodding with respect. Together, they slowly glided towards the lands of the Rock Demon clan. And so their journey began. Jian Wushuang would often continue his studies on sword principles during their journey. For the past 3 years at the governor's mansion, he had greatly improved his grasp on swordsmanship. It would not be long until he created his own sword principle. He was rapidly making good progress, devoting himself to intense research of sword principles with the 19 sword principles from the scroll as invaluable reference materials. During the journey, Wushuang would occasionally stop to find a quiet place to meditate and assimilate the things that he learned. There were times when he would join in with fights against other warriors when they stumbled upon duels or battles, using only his skills with the sword as a means of training by deliberately suppressing his might. He would sometimes look for a place to sleep, where he would slumber for days, or even months. Thus, with the odd behaviors of Jian Wushuang making sporadic stops and delays during his journey, what was at first a 5-year journey had turned into a 15-year pilgrimage before he reached the lands of the Rock Demon clan's dwelling. It was midnight, where the same blood-red moon he once saw shone eerily from the sky. Jian Wushuang was practicing his skills with the sword alone in a forest. The strokes he performed looked odd and peculiar. Indeed, peculiar would be an apt way of describing him. At times, his strokes were swift like lightning, and yet at times they seemed slow and frail before turning furious again like an angry serpent, intense and vicious. The strokes he demonstrated were all similar in nature, yet they were displayed in various different styles, merged together as one unique sword principle. The principle was a bizarre amalgam of different styles and philosophy, a wild and audacious blend of differing principles unified into one morbidly coalesced sword principle. At length, Jian Wushuang finally stopped. My applause, Jian Wushuang. You finally created the first sword principle of your own. The Gu King's approving voice came. Ha ha ha, Jian Wushuang grinned brightly. He had been studying extensively the 19 sword principles from the scroll and the acumen of creating the strongest sword principle. He continued studying and buried himself in profound study and training. At long last, after 15 years, he had finally created a sword principle of his own. The sword principle might look crude and simple. It was, nonetheless, a beginning for him. What do you make of my newly created sword principle, Gu King? Jian Wushuang asked, beaming with delight. This sword principle. The Gu King's voice faltered. After a moment's hesitation, he continued. Well, how can I say? It seems odd and peculiar. Chapter 1008, Turbulence. Chapter 1008, Turbulence. Peculiar? Jian Wushuang asked in return, confused. The sword principle you created seems like a cluttered blend of several different sword principles. It may be a sword principle you created on your own. The sword principle seems nevertheless a tad chaotic. The Gu King said. Chaotic? Jian Wushuang murmured in stunned silence. Even so, he could understand the reason for the Gu King's opinion. Having created the sword principle himself, yet even he knew neither what to call it nor how should he name it. The sword principle was forged by fusing the several styles of the many sword principles from the scroll, embodying the differing doctrines of several sword principles. It should be expected that the sword principle would most undoubtedly be disorganized. I agree, it is chaotic now, but this sword principle can be greatly improved when I am fully able to completely coalesce all the sword's principles as one. Jian Wushuang remarked earnestly, well, there is a sense in forging a brand new sword principle by integrating hundreds or even thousands of sword principles. Nevertheless, no one can truly tell if this sword principle can still be enhanced into your strongest sword principle. The Gu King said, Patience. Jian Wushuang said, smiling, This is but merely my first time. I will learn the ropes gradually. Jian Wushuang was rather delighted that he had finally created a sword principle of his own. He would ponder on the rest when the time was ripe. It may be a most ordinary sword principle, but with its creation came the power that now elevates my power. At last, I truly possess a Tao Master's battle strength at the pinnacle of rank 3. Jian Wushuang smiled, feeling pleased with himself before he turned to his side. Qing Bin. Master. Qing Bin acknowledged. Qing Bin appeared before Jian Wushuang, towering at more than 3 meters tall, clad in armor of crimson scarlet. For 15 years, Qing Bin had tirelessly followed Jian Wushuang everywhere, accommodating to Jian Wushuang's whimsical and sporadic delays during the journey that have cost them substantial time. Still, Qing Bin had always been loyal and respectful to Jian Wushuang without complaint. Never once he had forgotten that it was Jian Wushuang who saved him from the gladiators' arena. Is that the territory of the Rock Demon clan just ahead? Qing Bin, Jian Wushuang asked. Indeed, Master. We will be within the territory after crossing over this plain. Qing Bin answered. Very well, we should continue without delay then. Jian Wushuang said. Yes, Master. Qing Bin replied. There was a hint of delight and joy in his voice. With that, Jian Wushuang and Qing Bin set off immediately, crossing over the pasture of meadows, and reached the lands of the Rock Demon clan. Soon, I will finally return to my population. As they venture closer and closer in the direction of the bastion of the Rock Demon clan, Qingbin grew more and more excited, with a noticeable spring of delight in his steps. Even Jian Wushuang could feel the joy radiating from him. But they had only just reached the lands of the clan when, boom, boom, the clamor and bedlam of battle and carnage could be heard from afar. From a distance, Jian Wushuang could see that there were fighting and bloodshed from where he stood. There were dozens of people of opposing factions fighting in the battle. The warriors of one faction were quite large in build. Even the shortest one was more than 2 meters tall. The Titanic giants attacked violently in a crude and clumsy fashion, in great part due to their awfully strong physique. Nonetheless, they evidently weaker in number. The other faction had more than 20 men, all of whom were of the Eternal Realm, and 1/3 of them had reached its peak. Despite being weaker in brute strength and defensive capabilities, these men were more agile and nimble in their movements and maneuvers. The battle waged brutally between both sides, with the giants at an absolute disadvantage. Kill them all. The entire Rock Demon clan must die. Leave none of them alive. A peal of harsh roars came from the battlefield, the tremors of the pandemonium shaking even the heaven and earth. Jian Wushuang and Qingbin came closer to the site of battle. Another group of over a dozen men joined in the battle. They were apparently the reinforcements of the smaller and more agile group. Already suffering a hard-fought battle, the side of the Rock Demon clan were immediately being subdued and trampled in an instant. Oh no! Seeing this, Qingbin turned angry and furious. His eyes flared with murderous rage. He cursed, "Damned Black Python clan. Those are my kin, Master Wushuang, the people of the Rock Demon clan. They are in danger. I need to help them right now." As he spoke, Qingbin hurled himself forward. Jian Wushuang stood motionless, merely watching as his eyes slightly narrowed. The aura of Qingbin erupted in its fullness. His long adventures in the outside world and the many life-and-death fights at the gladiators' arena had welled within him a blend of brooding anger, remorse, resentment, and hate. These emotions helped shape the savage and violent aura that he unleashed, sweeping forth like a ripple of shockwave and instantly overwhelming everyone at the site of the battle. With the unexpected appearance of Qingbin, who had returned, looks of relief and hope filled the faces of his kins of the Rock Demon clan. "You are Qingbin? It's Brother Qingbin. It's Brother Qingbin. Quick, Qingbin, stop them." But the enemies from the other faction, the Black Python clan, merely sneer mockingly at the sight of Qingbin's appearance. "Qingbin? That is a name we have long heard before. It's said that he was once well known within the Rock Demon clan. However, he vanished afterward. There were rumors that he had left for an adventure, but I didn't expect his return. Nevertheless, there is nothing that a lone giant of the Eternal Realm can do to defy our might." Humph. Qingbin returns to seek his own doom. Say no more, just butcher him along with the rest. Several warriors of the Black Python clan immediately threw themselves at Qingbin. Qingbin's strength was at the peak of the Eternal Realm. No one here could hope to be able to match him in strength in single combat. But there were simply just too many enemies against him, like a lone tree trying its best to weather a horrific storm. The warriors of the Black Python clan were all of the Eternal Realm too. Any 3 of them who wielded strengths at the peak of the Eternal Realm could easily subdue Qingbin. The tide of battle had hardly shifted even with Qingbin's arrival. So life is also turbulent even in the lands of the Rock Demon clan, Jian Wushuang murmured. Noticing his cue to act, his figure shimmered abruptly, and he directly appeared at the center of the battle. His sudden leap into the fray shocked and surprised everyone. Another one, but he seems different. Is he not from the Rock Demon clan? Pay no heed. Just slaughter him along with others. Burning deeply in a fit of bloodlust, several warriors of the Black Python clan rushed over at once to attack Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang shot them a sharp look with a cold gaze, and opened his mouth suddenly. "Get lost!" He emitted so angry a roar that held tremendous ancient god powers, which were immediately dispersed like a powerful wave of force that swept across the site of battle. Everyone ceased their movements in astonishment and bewilderment. The kinsmen of the Rock Demon clan all looked at Jian Wushuang with awe. Panic rose from their hearts. At the same time, the marauders from the Black Python clan clutched and clawed at their eyes and ears in agony as they crumbled to the ground, wailing and crying in pain. Blood trickled out of their damaged ears and eyes. None of them were dead, but the people from the Black Python clan were all shocked, discombobulated, and paralyzed by this angry roar. "Our retreat! Retreat now!" The chieftain of the Black Python clan, a warrior of the Eternal Realm himself, howled a harsh cry, signaling the withdrawal of his men. None of them dared to remain, as they fled back to where they came from miserably. Some ventured a final glimpse of fear and terror at Jian Wushuang as they leave, hoping a final glance at the person who had effortlessly routed them with a mere roar that struck despair and panic into them. Chapter 1009, God Hong. Chapter 1009, God Hong. In mere moments, the numerous warriors of the Black Python clan who were formerly seething with bloodthirsty rage were all routed. Jian Wushuang's angry roar had struck so great a fear into their hearts that their blood froze. None of them dared to stay and endure his wrath. "Master Wushuang." Qingbin went to Jian Wushuang immediately. The rest of the Rock Demon clan gazed at Jian Wushuang with gratitude and awe. "Thank you for rescuing us, Master Wushuang," Qingbin said. If it were not for Jian Wushuang's help, he and his kin would have been slaughtered by the Black Python clan. "Why the hostilities by the Black Python clan?" Jian Wushuang asked. "It is as thus," Qingbin explained. "There are nearly 100 races and clans in this region. Among these populations, the Rock Demon clan and the Black Python clan reign the strongest. Both are the stronger populations around here. Hence, conflicts and battles ensue tirelessly as both clans fought to maintain their influence and interests. Animosity between both clans have persisted for many years now." "I see," Jian Wushuang remarked, his eyebrows raising with faint surprise. "The Rock Demon clan, one of the stronger populations." Prior to arriving here, he had presumed that the Rock Demon clan was a common or lesser population. Never did he know that the clan was a stronger population that commanded a minor degree of authority. Even across the entire Samsara continent, the stronger populations numbered few and scarce. They were clans or race that possessed considerably potent overall strength. "Take me to Godhong, Qingbin," Jian Wushuang said promptly. "Yes." Qingbin immediately led the way. Before long, they reached the stronghold of the Rock Demon clan. The stronghold of the Rock Demon clan was surrounded by a ring of mountains. Within the bastion of the clan were numerous buildings and structures that housed millions of their kin. Even among the stronger populations, it was rare for a race to have a population of millions of kinsmen. The Rock Demon clan was beyond any doubt one of the stronger populations that commanded respectable overall strength over the lesser races and clans. Still, it was among the weakest of stronger populations across the continent. They have 10 Tao masters in their midst, the least possible number of Tao masters for stronger populations. The greatest warrior of the clan was none other than God Hong, a Tao master of rank 3. Still, he wielded only the elementary proficiency of rank 3. It was the awakened Rock Demon bloodline that flowed through his veins, which had endowed him with an extremely sturdy physique, allowing him a slight edge even in fights against rank 3 Dao masters with advanced proficiency. Following closely behind Qingbin, Jian Wushuang was led directly into the bastion of the Rock Demon Clan, where he was arranged for an audience with God Hong in a grand hall. Clad in armor of cyan hue, God Hong was a bald man who towered at an intimidating height of more than 5 meters. There he stood, they saw, at the forefront of the hall, like a huge mountain. Is he God Hong? Jian Wushuang asked himself, staring at God Hong with astonishment and disbelief. The mere shred of consciousness of God Hong during their encounter in the ancient world had left a vivid and lasting impression that had never ceased to awe him. Jian Wushuang could hardly forget the amazement and awe that he reserved especially for the consciousness that was shaped by the residual powers left in a mere severed finger of God Hong. Yet, now, meeting God Hong for the first time in person, Jian Wushuang could hardly feel neither admiration nor adoration for the person he once respected. "Brother Hong, it is I, Qingbin, who has returned." Qingbin rushed over to God Hong and fell to his knees before the hulking man with great excitement, bowing his head down on the ground with utmost reverence as his voice echoed through the alcoves of the hall. "It is good that you have returned. On your feet now." Relieved and comforted, God Hong dismissed with a simple wave of his hand as he watched his long-lost kin immediately got to his feet. "This is Master Jian Wushuang, Brother Hong. He is the reason that I am able to return alive. More so, it was he who had earlier saved our kinsmen from the Black Python clan and had routed their warriors." "Oh." God Hong turned to look at Jian Wushuang. "My name is Jian Wushuang, Senior. My deepest respects to you." Jian Wushuang greeted him. "Jian Wushuang?" God Hong asked strangely. There was a faint glimpse of recognition in his eyes. "You might remember, Senior, that many years before, a severed finger of yours had fallen into a domain called the Ancient World. The finger contained a sliver of your consciousness. The consciousness from the severed finger had encountered a young fellow and had taught him the immortality's secret skill. The young fellow was also imparted with the technique of enhanced magic, Thunderbolt." Jian Wushuang said, smiling. God Hong's gaze instantly transfixed upon Jian Wushuang with a surprised stare as he realized who Jian Wushuang was. He said, "You were the young man from the ancient world." "I am." Jian Wushuang said. "How is this possible?" God Hong looked at Jian Wushuang with amazement. He said, "You were but a fresh sapling then, still young and untrained in combat and martial skills when the shred of my consciousness met you. It has hardly been 2,000 years, and yet in such a short time you have managed to achieve such power and strength." God Hong was filled with astonishment. He had merely intended to show some kindness to a helpless weakling when they first met. Despite once encouraging Jian Wushuang to reach for greater heights and proposing that the young man visit him in the future, he did not expect that Jian Wushuang would indeed thrive and progress so swiftly. But now, Jian Wushuang had indeed come to him in less than 2,000 years. "You had saved Qingbin and had repelled our enemies from the Black Python clan. I simply don't know how to express my gratitude to you," God Hong said with a smile. "You are being too polite, Senior. I would not be here if it were not for the kindness that you have shown me so many years ago," Jian Wushuang said. Nevertheless, Jian Wushuang spoke true. His encounter with God Hong had given him the means which enabled the breakthrough of his strength and granted him the immortality secret skill. The very same immortality secret skill had been key to his continued success. It was hardly an exaggeration that it was God Hong who had paved the way for Jian Wushuang's climb to power. "Ha ha! I had helped you then because I had perceived you as a pleasant and likable young man. Yet never would I be able to foretell that you would be able to blossom and thrive to such greatness. God Hong burst into laughter as all semblances of his intimidating and stern self immediately diminished. Just then, God Hong muttered with surprise. His expression took a drastic change. What is wrong, Brother Hong? Qingbin asked, looking at God Hong. It's a beacon calling for help. I must look into it right away. God Hong said grimly. Could it be the Black Python clan again? Qingbin asked, his face darkened with gloom. I am afraid it is true. There have been many changes within the Black Python clan while you were away. They have revolutionized their inner workings that they have now landed us, the Rock Demon clan, in a very dire and disadvantaged position. God Hong lamented with a sigh before he turned to glance at Jian Wushuang. I am afraid I have business to attend to. Young friend, our conversation will have to continue some other time. Please stay with us and enjoy our hospitality while you're here. Qing Bin will show you around our clan. There is an area which might interest you. It is a place where it might be useful to students in the skills of swordsmanship like you. Qing Bin will lead you there as well. With that, God Hong took his leave and left. Please come with me, Master Wushuang, Qing Bin said with a smile. Very well, Jian Wushuang replied curiously as he nodded. God Hong had mentioned of a site which will help greatly the students of the mastery of swordsmanship. What manner of place could that be? Chapter 1010, The Legacy of the Sword Emperor. Chapter 1010, The Legacy of the Sword Emperor. The bastion of the Rock Demon clan was a wide and large city. Qing Bin and Jian Wushuang had wandered long before they finally came to the bottom of a huge mountain gorge that was deep behind one of the great mountains that overlooked the city. They were between the massive, rocky-faced walls of the deep ravine. Here we are, Master Wushuang, Qing Bin said as they came to a stop. The finger of his outstretched arm pointed to the huge, jagged walls. Look, Master. Jian Wushuang looked closely into the distant. What he saw made him froze. With his eyes twinkling with awe and amazement, Jian Wushuang saw many marks upon the walls. Unlike the rough faces of the walls, the marks were incredibly precise and smooth with varying depths and declinations, very much similar to the marks left upon a slab of butter by a hot and keen blade. These were all marks left by swords, marks that have cleaved and hewed deep into the solid walls of rock with differing depth. There were 9 of them in all. Jian Wushuang looked at the 9 sword marks on the walls of the chasm, feeling horrified and yet amazed. Too smooth. These sword marks are just too smooth. How sharp would a sword have to be capable of carving so deeply and smoothly into solid rock? How swift would the skills of its wielder have to be able to harness such power? Jian Wushuang breathed absent-mindedly as he studied the first sword mark. The first sword mark was the shallowest of the 9. Despite its age, Jian Wushuang could still faintly perceive the aura left by the stroke, a destructive will to inflict damage that appalled him. As he examined the mark, Jian Wushuang could slowly envision a figure, the silhouette of a swordsman who swung his sword and left the mark on the wall with finesse and grace. Too fast. This stroke is too fast. Jian Wushuang gasped, astonished before he moved on to the second sword mark. The second mark was deeper still, containing a richer residue of aura left so long ago. Jian Wushuang could envision once more the figure of the swordsman brandishing his blade. The dance of his sword bore the vestiges of the same swordsmanship. The only difference that this second mark was left by a stroke swifter than the first. Already the stroke which had birthed the first sword mark was fast enough to amaze Jian Wushuang, but the stroke that had created the second mark was even faster still. Then he saw the third, the fourth, and the subsequent marks that followed. As the marks became deeper and deeper, the swordsman from his vision demonstrated the strokes of his swordsmanship with speeds that outvied one after another, growing increasingly faster and faster. Finally, he saw the ninth and the final sword mark. The mark cleaved deep into the rock that it appeared it could even sunder the mountain in half. It clearly bore the traces of the strongest force unleashed by the swiftest stroke. In his vision, Jian Wushuang could fully visualize the silhouette of the swordsman, showing to him the swordsmanship in its fullness. The speed of the stroke was what left him horrified. It was so fast that not even Jian Wushuang could see it clearly. It bore such terrible swiftness that Jian Wushuang knew even he himself would only be helpless before such an overwhelming speed. Finally, he saw the ninth and the final sword mark. I believe it was an incredibly powerful swordsman who was once here to meditate on his mastery of swordsmanship and hone them to perfection. The 9 marks on the wall of the gorge were left during his training. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. All 9 marks were left by the very same stroke, repeated again and again. But the differences in the depths of the strokes showed the gradual rise in force that was accorded by the increase of speed in the execution of the stroke. It was beyond a doubt the manifestation of how the swordsman had pushed his skills to its limits step by step. What do you think of them, Master Wushuang? Qingbin asked as he looked at Jian Wushuang. Extremely shocked, Jian Wushuang answered truthfully. Everyone from our clan, those who study swordsmanship, wore the very same amazed and shocked expression that you now wear when they first laid eyes on these marks. Qingbin said with a smile. It was about 20,000 years ago when a mysterious swordsman happened to venture here. Struck by a sudden glimpse of inspiration, he stopped here and meditated on his skills. He was then discovered by some of my kin who had tried to drive him away. But in his act to ward off those who disturbed his meditation, he carelessly cast a blow from his sword that had then created the first mark that you had seen earlier. This terrified everyone present, including Brother Hong. With respects for his skills, Brother Hong commanded that no one were to disturb the meditation of the swordsman. In fact, he had even assigned sentinels who watched for the safety of the swordsman, guarding him peacefully at the entrances of the gorge. For 2 years, the swordsman remained until his departure. We then discovered the 9 sword marks that he had left on the granite wall of the chasm. They were gifts from him in return for the hospitality that we have accorded him for 2 years. Compensation, Jian Wushuang uttered, breaking into a giggle. The 9 sword marks were a great boon to any swordsman seeking to hone their skills. It was a very heavy gift from the swordsman to the Rock Demon clan for his 2-year-long stay in the ravine. Do you know of the name of this master swordsman, Qingbin? Jian Wushuang asked. I do, Qingbin promptly said. Before he left, he had revealed that his name was Sunrise. Sunrise? The Sunrise Sword Emperor? Jian Wushuang gasped, his eyes opening wide. There was but only one swordsman in the entire Green Fire world who bore the name of Sunrise. He was none other than the Sunrise Sword Emperor, the undisputed greatest swordsman of the Green Fire world. No wonder, Jian Wushuang said. No wonder these marks are so powerful and incredible. These are the hallmarks of the skills of the Sunrise Sword Emperor himself. Jian Wushuang felt a rapturous delight in his heart as he looked in awe at the sword marks. It was imperative that he created a stronger sword principle. The 9 sword marks left by the Sunrise Sword Emperor would be of great hope to that vocation. Most importantly, the 9 swords marks showcased a gradual process to pursue perfection. These sword marks, Jian Wushuang stared at the first sword scar carefully instantly fascinated by the inspiration it embodied. Within moments, his eyes blinked shut. Master Wushuang. Qingbin tried to call out to him, but he saw Jian Wushuang closing his eyes suddenly before he drew his sword and began waving it around as he practiced his strokes in the middle of two lofty mountain faces. Realizing that Jian Wushuang was ensnared by a similar reverie of an awakening inspiration, Qingbin retreated silently out of the gorge, leaving Jian Wushuang alone deep in his meditation peacefully. Completely awash with a euphoric delirium, Jian Wushuang fell into a deep trance of meditation, losing completely all sense of time. In a mere flash, 3 days had passed, but Jian Wushuang was still deep in his trance, waving his sword in practice. But the speed of his skills had increased substantially. Floating in midair, God Hong, who had returned from his business, and Qingbin stood abreast side by side, watching at Jian Wushuang, who was still inside the gorge. Our young friend shares a certain kismet with me, and he has great potential. In only 2,000 years, he had managed to reach such immense strength. It will be hardly long before he truly becomes an invincible warrior. God Hong smiled, and then glanced at Qingbin beside him, saying, "Let no one into the gorge for now. We will leave our young friend here on his own as he mediates peacefully." Chapter 10:11, Aurora Sword Principle. Chapter 10:11, Aurora Sword Principle. In the rift of the territory of the Rock Demon Clan, Jian Wushuang was stunned when seeing the 9 sword scars on the mountain wall. Judging from the 9 sword scars on the wall, he could imagine Sunrise Sword Emperor swiped faster and faster. The last one was so fast that it was even beyond Jian Wushuang's imagination, which completely refreshed his knowledge of swordsmanship. He then forgot about everything, immersing himself in meditation upon sword principle. Under the command of God Hong, the clansmen of the Rock Demon Clan who used to meditate upon sword principle didn't come to the rift to bother Jian Wushuang during these days. Jian Wushuang threw himself into study, meditation, and practice. In a wink, 5 years had passed. Jian Wushuang stood quietly in the rift, staring at a vertical boulder in the front. Then he drew out his sword right away. Jian Wushuang drew his long sword out. With a flash of sword light, he put it back to the sheath. If an ordinary person saw this, he wouldn't believe his eyes, or he would think that Jian Wushuang didn't even move. Yet, at this moment, the vertical boulder in front of Jian Wushuang was sliced in the middle of its body and finally fell to the ground. Its cut was extremely smooth and flat. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang couldn't help putting a smile on his face. "Congratulations, Jian Wushuang. You have created the second sword principle of your own." The voice of Gu King rang in Jian Wushuang's mind. "Ha!" Jian Wushuang said with a grin. It never occurred to him that there would be 9 sword scars left by Sunrise Sword Emperor in the territory of the Rock Demon Clan. What was more, the 9 sword scars were from easy to difficult, which made it quite easy for Jian Wushuang to meditate on. Through this meditation, he had been inspired in many ways. It helped him create his second sword principle over the 5 years. "I created the first sword principle by absorbing the essences of many sword principles and integrating them to make a more powerful and horrible sword principle. Through evolution, this sword principle should unify into one at the end." But the second sword principle, Jian Wushuang said. Jian Wushuang squinted slightly. The second sword principle came from the 9 sword scars left by Sunrise Sword Emperor through meditation. It also focuses on speed. By now I just learned its basis. It was also a sword principle at the most common level. As for its name, for now, I shall just call it Aurora Sword Principle. He had created 2 sword principles. One of them was Coalescence Sword Principle, and the other one was Aurora sword principle. Both of them were sword principles at the common level. Yet, there was still a lot of room for improvement. Needless to say, as for Coalescence sword principle, he could make it more and more powerful by integrating more sword principles and making a perfect combination of essence of those sword principles. As for Aurora sword principle, speed was the most important thing. Now that Jian Wushuang had only preliminarily mastered it, obviously he could make it more powerful. Jian Wushuang, although you have created 2 sword principles and enhanced your overall strength, your swordsmanship can't enable you to display your sword principles to full extent. Therefore, now you shouldn't focus on improving the level of sword principle. Instead, you should turn to swordsmanship suitable for your sword principles. The voice of Gu King rang in his mind again. Only when your sword principle match with your swordsmanship perfectly can you completely fulfill yourself. I see. Jian Wushuang nodded and said he was also aware of his drawbacks on swordsmanship. Boundless Heaven sword art was his best swordsmanship. However, Boundless Heaven sword art just focused on power, which was apparently not suitable to improve his 2 sword principles. It's not difficult to create a matching swordsmanship to fully display Coalescence sword principle. After all, it unifies all swordsmanships into one, which makes it applicable to various swordsmanships. The problem is Aurora sword principle. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself about the swordsmanship suitable for Aurora sword principle. I do have an idea, but it needs to be tested in constant efforts. The 9 sword scars left by Sunrise Sword Emperor are profound and extensive. It has a lot in common with my Aurora sword principle. It probably can inspire me in many ways to create a matching swordsmanship. Jian Wushuang looked up at the 9 sword scars on the mountain wall and then started digging into swordsmanship. When he first arrived Samsara continent, he was so eager to look for his father. But now he was totally calmed. The 9 sword scars left by Sunrise Sword Emperor were of great use to him. He would certainly want to stay longer to improve his sword principles as well as his swordsmanship level. As time went by, Jian Wushuang had long forgotten about everything else. In a flash, Jian Wushuang had already been meditating in the rift for 13 years. Upon the void outside the rift, Godhong and Qingbin stood side by side. Master Wushuang is still cultivating there. Looking down at Jian Wushuang, who was absorbed in studying swordsmanship, Qingbin secretly praised. He has completely indulged in swordsmanship meditation. Godhong said with a smile, Jian Wushuang is not only extremely talented, but also a lot more diligent than most people. No wonder he can make such an achievement in less than 2,000 years. By the way, during these days, was there discontent from the clansmen who used to meditate in the rift? No. Qingbin shook his head and said with a smile, when Master Wushuang first came to our clan, he helped us to defeat numerous experts of the Black Python clan and saved a lot of our clansmen. Everyone in our clan knows what he did. They appreciate him a lot, including clansmen who cultivate sword principles. Therefore, no one has complained about it when they knew Master Wushuang has been cultivating in the rift. That's good, Godhong said. Nodding slightly, this young man has got extraordinary potentials. He'll achieve great success in the future. It's also beneficial for us to be friendly with such a potential expert. That's right. Qingbin nodded along and said, speaking of the Black Python clan, something might go wrong among them judging from their actions these days. Godhong suddenly frowned and said, in terms of strength, the Black Python clan is much stronger than us. In the battle between us, they will come at us outrageously as long as we win a little. However, this time we have gained such a big advantage, yet they didn't react it at all. It is absolutely unusual. Take my order. Tell our clansmen to be careful as much as possible. My gut tells me that the Black Python clan is planning something drastic. Something drastic? Qin Bin appeared puzzled, but immediately realized. He said, I see. God Hong and Qin Bin didn't stay any longer in this void. Soon they left. Jian Wushuang was still alone in the rift, concentrating on practicing his swordsmanship. Since he created the second sword principle, it had been 8 years in total. His swordsmanship was quite different from what it used to be